we are about to start. Yeah. Okay, guys. So I think we are gonna start. Well, welcome everyone. I'm very happy that so many people gathered this morning. Well, with summer advancing in this lecture room, many of you survived 2 intensive weeks of summer school. So thank you for being here, and thanks also the new people that came just for the research part of the workshop. So it's my pleasure to open the main 6-week period of JSALT. JSALT stands for Yannick's summer workshop on speech and language technologies, but Sanjeev will tell more about that. And this introduction will be pretty short because I have 2 more important people here than myself to welcome you. And the first one is the Rector of BUT, Yannick. So he has the BUT as the Rector, so he's the highest person here. And he's actually aeronautical engineer by education, and he also lectured of aircraft design at BUT, but later he shifted into management. He did pretty well because he had quite an impact on Masaryk University. This is our friends / competitors here in Brno, like another major university. Then he shifted to BUT, first as a bursar and now as a rector. And you know that when I'm introducing people, I also try to add some personal remarks on them. So Ladislav likes adventure trips, including Antarctica, and he's also a passionate musician. So, you know, many things here in Brno work with the musical mafia, and he's like a member of one of these. Okay, so that's it, and I will just pass it over to him.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Interesting introduction. I didn't expect. We had a very lively discussion in front of this lecture room about artificial intelligence. Of course, as you know, originally I am an aeronautical engineer, but I'm a fan of artificial intelligence and just of these tools for improving our lives, hopefully. So, first of all, let me welcome you at the campus of the Brno University of Technology in these historical places, because this is the former monastery, maybe you know already. It was established in 1375, so I think that this is also the beginning of the Faculty of Information Technology. So 1375, of course I'm joking a little bit. But Brno University of Technology is one of the oldest technical universities in the region, and region I mean not only the Czech Republic but also Austria, Hungary here, and we are closely coordinating our activities with our partners. At the moment we are part of the international alliance with European University Alliance, ULIST, together with Technical University of Vienna, Leibniz Hanover University, and other 7 or 8 universities throughout the whole Europe, from Spain, France, Italy. And so we consider ourselves being an international, to have an international setup. So for me, it's important that we have such events like this one, because I learned that it takes almost 8 weeks to go through all these topics of artificial intelligence. We consider, of course, this area of artificial intelligence as one of strategic topics of our university. Just strategic. We identified 21 professional areas in which our university considers being internationally competitive. So artificial intelligence is one of them. As maybe you know something about our university, we were established in 1899, so it's 126 years ago, and at the moment we are the full-range technical university which provides full-range technical education in areas which are normally studied at the universities, from mechanical engineering, civil engineering, engineering, electrical engineering, information technology, chemical engineering. But apart from that, we have also business and management faculty, which provides some education in economics and management and business issues, supporting business development and such, and also faculty of fine arts. So it's interesting, just a connection, technology and arts. But I learned that we had an interesting discussion in front of the doors here to talk about how artificial intelligence can be used in arts. And I think it is a great challenge, great challenge. For me, Professor Černocký mentioned that I also play the music and I have some funny experience with artificial intelligence because I tried to use one of my compositions. I put it to the artificial intelligence, and please could you tell me something about what I wrote? And so it was in D major, and it answered a beautiful piece of music, of course, in E major. So I, look, sorry, it's not E major. E major has 4 crosses, so this is just only 2. Oh, sorry. This is, so I think I learned that you have some workshop also on that, how it can be recognition of and potential all of these applications. But going back to the university, research is a crucial component of our university. Actually, in terms of revenues, we are half and half, research and education in terms of revenues. At the moment, we also belong to the Association of Research Universities of the Czech Republic, which is at the moment 7 universities, and our university from the 1st of July will become a leading university of this association. So we consider research as a real something which brings some competitive advantage. And talking about competitiveness and competitive advantage, this is an issue for Europe at the moment, for national economies, and also our economy. We have a new economic strategy of our country, and of course one of the crucial components of this is just to build economy on knowledge and innovations. And it was identified that artificial intelligence is one of the directions implemented in various applications. Not only what you do here, but also Industry 4.0 and just all these things which at the moment are frequently hidden by digitalization of industry and something. So what to tell more? I think that at the moment it is also important what I would like to say about this faculty. This is one of this is one of pillars of our university. This faculty of information technology. At the moment, everybody knows that information technology is growing and will grow. We, of course, consider important that economy of our countries, which is based on industry at the moment, needs highly qualified labor. And Faculty of Information Technology is producing one of these qualified people who can contribute to the competitiveness of the country. As far as some other things which I would like to mention, but what is important for us is, I already spoke about research. For us is also important transfer of knowledge, transfer and businesses. And our Faculty of Information Technology is one of sources of startups and spin-offs. And we have very successful examples of this business development. So let's, I think that we can say that just we are very proud of how a faculty operates. And me personally, I'm really very keen on results of this conference. I was invited just to come at least for the last 2 days, potentially, which I will potentially participate in to hear conclusions. And In the end, what I should say, just I would like to wish you successful days. I would like to wish some to enjoy the stay in Brno, in our university. Hopefully you will have some pleasant time here. And if anything, I will be happy to be informed, and I will stay in contact with Professor Černocký, and potentially we will meet in some events during these days of your workshop. So I wish you success, and I'm looking forward to see the results. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Rector, for excellent welcome speech. And the second person welcoming you here will be Pavel Zemčík. Pavel is a professor here at the Department of Computer Graphics and Multimedia, Vice Dean of the faculty, and also former Dean of FIT. He's also involved in Finland. He's involved with industry, having co-founded Camea, a very successful computer vision company. And, well, again, some personal remarks. Pavel is also musical mafioso because he plays cello. And it's basically due to his cello playing and my wife's violin playing, this group, Speech at Fit, is at this faculty at all. But this is a long story, which I'll be happy to tell you offline. So I pass the mic to Pavel, and thanks for being with us.
Thanks very much, Honza. It's actually a great pleasure and honor to be able to speak to you today. So welcome at Faculty of Information Technology. Let me just add some basic facts to what Mr. Rector said previously. So this building has been founded in 1375, or not, the next building has been founded in 1375. You may be wondering how it happened that the Faculty of Information Technology is here. It happened that way that the monastery was nationalized by Austrian emperor. He converted that into military facility, so this was like a horse riding unit place for about 200 years, and then it was inherited by Czechoslovak army. And then the Czechoslovak army didn't quite know what to do with the building, so in 1960s, the army donated the building to the university, and the Faculty of Electrical Engineering started to use the building. And by the way, at this place in early 1960s, we started the tradition of teaching of computer science and technologies, at that time at Faculty of Electrical Engineering. And our faculty of Information Technology, subdivided from Electrical Engineering in 2002. So it's now in its 23rd year of existence. It's still youngest faculty of Brno University of Technology, but I believe it's successful. And it is successful because we have you here. So anyway, good luck to JSALT, and I'm really happy that you are here, and thanks very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pavle. And I think the next part in the program is Sanjeev's overview of what is JSALT, how it originated, and where it is now.
Okay, much better. Okay, hello, I'm Sanjeev Khudanpur, and along with Honza Černocký and Paula Garcia, who will be here shortly, are the organizers of this year's workshop, and Lukáš, Burget, Ricard, Marxer, Ramani, Duraiswami, and Yannick, Estève are leading the 4 teams. So this is the next 2.5 hours are going to be a joint presentation by all of us in different parts. So before I go on, I titled my slide in the program, The Road to JSALT. So if you want to know where this workshop came from, how we're here today, you have to go actually way back. You have to go back to the 1950s. right? What happened is the Second World War had just ended, and US and Britain had had these great successes in code breaking, and they wanted to continue that research effort. And by the way, it was a lot of research effort. If you've seen the movie Imitation Game, you know Alan Turing, the father of computer science, was involved in it and so on. So they founded this institute called the Institute for Defense Analysis on the campus of Princeton University. And they started doing research. They would invite mathematicians from all over the country in the summer to work together. And they used to call them SCAMPs, a summer camp in applied mathematics and probability. It's been so long, people have forgotten what SCAMP stands for, right? And they used to do this very successfully. And for many, many years, a lot of great progress was done. In fact, if you guys know the hidden Markov model and the expectation maximization, the forward-backward algorithm for it, it was invented at IDA, and then it came to the rest of the field, including speech recognition, machine translation. So what has IDA got to do with us? So about 30 years ago, back in 1993, somebody from IDA named Jordan Cohen, along with a couple of colleagues, I think Kurt Boyles, Tom Crystal, these are names which are so old, I don't know them very well. I know Jordan Cohen very well. So Jordan said, hey, we need to do something like SCAMPs in speech and language. We need to bring the community together to solve these really hard problems. The thing about SCAMP is it's like a dream team approach, saying, here's a problem, let me find the 20 best people in the world who can work on it and put them together to put them to work. So Jordan, started the summer workshop series, but he wanted to do it much more openly because unlike the math world where people were happy to work, and by the way, IDEA does a lot of work in secret. If you don't know it, that's okay. But we wanted to do this more open. Jordy wanted to do it more openly. So he teamed up with Jim Flanagan, who had just retired from a very senior position in Bell Labs, heading their signal processing speech research, and started a center at Rutgers University called CAPE. And so Jim was very influential in persuading a lot of good people to come there for 8 weeks, and that's how the workshop started. And then they had a second one in 1994. So these are the Rutgers. So very quick side anecdote. One person who was at the Rutgers workshops in 93 and 94 was our very own Professor Yannick Hermansky. So no, it's a funny story how this goes, because Jim Flanagan passed away. He was such a luminary in the field. IEEE has named a corporate prize award in his name. It's called the Jim Flanagan Medal. And of course, Yannick must have met Jim before that. But if you go 27 years from 1993 forward, in 2020, Yannick was the recipient of the Jim Flanagan Prize, which basically says, you've done great things for the field of speech and language. So the workshop has interesting Czech connections I'll show you as we go along. But then, since then, it's been called the Hopkins Workshop. Why is that? Why did people forget it was started at Rutgers? Well, that's because in 94, another famous Czech, Bedřich Jelinek, or Fred Jelinek, as we like to call him, was moved from IBM, from leading the speech group, and became the director of the Center for Language and Speech Processing at Johns Hopkins. And he took over the running of the workshops. He basically said, okay, I'll run this for the future, because Jim was sort of towards the end of his retirement career anyway. And so the first workshop at Hopkins happened in 1995. And Yannick brought in a lot of things which are now there in the workshops. So for example, he started this idea of, you can't just show up and start working over there. We need to start planning 8 months ahead. We need to get people together to figure out what topics we want to attack and what the best teams are, and so on and so forth. And also, until the first 2 years in Rutgers, the workshops had a lot of senior researchers and faculty and research lab people and government people, a few scattered grad students here and there. And Jelinek decided that grad students are key to the whole thing. So he made PhD students an integral part of the workshop. In fact, he started recruiting PhD students who were not even affiliated with the senior people who were going to come to the workshop. And one of those graduate students was this guy who was working on information theory, right? Who knew nothing about speech and language. And he still had hair on his head, and that's how it started with me. So this is the workshops. It has a long history, so this is now 30 years ago. So what were we working on 30 years ago? Anyone wants to guess? Yeah.
Cats and dogs.
Something bigger, something that's big news today. Language models. So this community, you can be proud of it. We have started this whole thing, which today gets this big name, large language models, this, that. In 1995, all 4 workshop teams are working on language modeling. Right? We're trying to figure out how to make them better, how to apply them to speech recognition, how to sort of see if they can learn linguistic structures, and so on and so forth. So the workshops have always done these amazing things. So like I said, Yannick started this business of saying, let's organize ahead of time, have 3 or 4 teams, and do things like, in a focused way. And so there were teams in 96, 97. I could tell you stories about each year if you want, but I'll jump a little bit and go a little faster. So the next thing I want to tell you about is 1998. So what is special about 98 is this was another one of those Jellinek, and now I can take some credit to my idea, saying, let's involve undergraduates in this. Because, why is that? So one of our former university presidents said this, like, a team of undergraduates made some breakthrough because they didn't know that there was a theorem saying you can't do it. So we said, let's get some undergraduates in here and let's do something with them. So this is a picture from 1998. And second from the left is Cynthia Kuo, who was an undergrad at Stanford that year. Third is Oren Schwartz. So these were the first 2 undergrads out of 6 in 1998. And I'll tell you a bit more about how this has been a success. And so the workshops now started having senior people, grad students, undergrads. Another Czech connection, the person on the right in the back is Honza. At that time, he was an assistant professor at the Institute for Formal and Applied Linguistics in the Faculty of Mathematics and Physics at Charles University. Later on, he rose to be the director of the institute. He's a well-known luminary in the field. And so there's another Czech connection for you. By the way, the person to his right, second from the right behind is Eric Brill, the former CTO of eBay, who these days says he's fun employed, meaning he has so much money that he's retired, and so on. But anyway, so that was 1998. Like I said, Honza led a team on, we also started multilingual NLP at that time in a serious way, and so on and so forth. The workshop has always done a lot of things which are at the forefront of things. So in 99, there was a team that worked on statistical machine translation. So this team single-handedly resurrected the whole idea of using statistical methods to do machine translation, as opposed to having grammar rules and translation memories and this and that. And I say resurrected because what happened is a few years earlier, there was a team from IBM, Fred Jellinek's former colleagues, who had written a paper about how you might be able to use just parallel text. They took the Canadian Hansards, which are in French and English, and said, you can just give that to a computer and it'll start learning translation. They wrote the paper, it was intriguing, but of course it was an IBM, so none of the code got released, and these guys promptly left and started a hedge fund. So these are Peter Brown and Bob Mercer. The rest, as they say, is history. The fund was called Renaissance Technologies. But anyway, so that work disappeared. So a team led by Kevin Knight said, no, this is too important. We need to bring it back together. So David Yarowski, John Lafferty, I can't even remember who was there in the team, got together and said, we need to reinvent everything they did just based on one paper. And they started this whole field, and since then, there has been statistical machine translation in the field of natural language processing for, since then, continuously. Other things we did is, this is a workshop on speech and language, but we've always known that speech, language are just 2 of the many modalities in which we communicate. So already in 2000, we were doing research on audiovisual speech recognition. There was a team led by Chalapati Neti from IBM, where they said, if I'm listening to somebody and looking at their face, can you combine that multimodal information? Because there's a lot of psychological, psychoacoustic evidence to show that humans look at the other person and even interpret their lips when they're listening to them. So we've been doing this for a long time in this workshop. So this was one of the early pieces of work. The other thing we've been doing quite successfully, let me see, is nurturing collaborations, other collaborations with computer vision. So I already told you about Neti's team on audiovisual ASR in 2000. In 2004, we had a team, again, Giri Iyengar from IBM, and Manmatha, who used to be at UMass at that time, now at Amazon. By the way, Giri is now in Capital One or something. So these guys led a team on joint visual text modeling. The idea was, if I specify a query in text, can you find me images and videos with that concept in it? Nowadays, everybody's enamored with clip and clap and whatever, and everybody thinks it was invented by 3 years ago. No, people were working on it back in 2004. And there are nice papers about how this can be done. In 2010, there was a team led by Jan. What is Jan's last name? Jan. And Evelyn Zuckerman. Jan was at Comcast, which later on, basically there's a media holding company. Yes, he was a Maryland grad, yes, thank you. And so basically what these guys did, they said, if I have videos of cooking shows, where there's narration that says, and dice the onions and fry them, and peel the mango. So can a computer look at the video and the text or the speech and figure out what things mean? Can we learn from video and narration? So they've been working on these kind of things for a long time. Alex and Tamara Berg in 2011 led a team on joint text and image interpretation. And in fact, some of their work is the founding work behind Clip and all these other embeddings. They were one of the few people to start using large captioned image databases. There was a team in 2012 led by Andrea Vidaldi, who's at Oxford, and everybody uses VGG features, anyone? So this is he's from the Oxford Visual Geometry group, and basically these guys worked on trying to get a detailed explanation of an image. Don't simply say that's a parrot, or don't simply say it's a Brazilian something something parrot. Tell me it's that because it has this crown and these wings and so things like that. So the detailed understanding of images. So again, this is you should be happy and proud of what workshop you're in because we've been doing these things at the forefront of technology for a long time. Again, we have a team this year, as you'll hear, which is going to do multimodal understanding. So this is one of the things. Also, it's not just that we do research and go away. Some really, really important things actually have come straight out of the workshop. So one of them is Philip Kuhn's work in 2006. He created a statistical machine translation toolkit, which basically completely democratized machine translation, like translating text from one language to another. There are at least 50 companies which uses open source tools, and they've been very, very successful. He recently also transitioned to neural machine translation, and there's all sorts of good stuff. Lukáš Burget, where's Lukáš? Lukáš led a team in 2008, and that team came up with the idea of I-vectors, which again completely made a quantum jump in the area of speaker recognition. And I'm putting up Najim's picture because Najim was the grad student credited with it, but Lukáš led the team. In 2009, again, Lukáš, is Petr here? And then Karel Vasily is not here. There was a bunch of people who worked with Dan Povey to create automatic speech recognition tools, which later on got the name Kaldi. And again, there are at least 60 or 70 companies which are based on Kaldi and which produce speech products out there in the world. Again, everything completely open source, right? So this is another tradition we have at the workshop. By the way, if you noticed, I said one team was led by Giri from IBM, another one by Jan from Comcast, right? The reason is the workshop has this open nature where we just share everything with everybody in the world. Nobody fights over copyrights. And as a result, companies are very vested in it. And if you stay till the end of the presentation, you'll see that there's a significant industry involvement all the way from the planning stages to the actual execution of the work. So this is a really true collaboration between academia and industry. And of course, 2018, there was a team led by Takaaki Hori from the Mitsubishi Electric Research Lab. But again, one of the people in the team, Shinji Watanabe, pushed ahead and created the ESP.NET tools, which are again being used widely today for a lot of speech and language people. There's Karel. Hi, Karel. I just mentioned you a minute ago. Okay. Of course, since 95 to 2013, the workshop was always in Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. And Yannick had passed away in 2010, but we continued the tradition, and Yannick and I were there. But at some point, I got bored, and I said, every summer, I'm stuck in Baltimore, whereas everybody else comes to a different place and has fun. So we should do this somewhere else. So we used an opportunity in 2014 to take the workshop on the road, as we say. So for the first time, JSALT was held outside. And by the way, that's where we started calling it the Yannick Workshop. It went to Prague in 2014. We held it at UFAL at the Faculty of Mathematics and Physics. This, by the way, is a picture of Malostranský náměstí. It's taken from I think from a tower on one side. And the faculty is somewhere to the bottom left. This is just my memory of it. These are my pictures, by the way. Then in 2015, we went to Seattle at the University of Washington. This picture resolution not that great, but if you look very carefully, you can actually see Mount Rainier back there. The campus has a beautiful view of Mount Rainier. 2017, we went to Pittsburgh. This is Falling Water. It's one of those architectural marvels. I think it's Frank Gehry, right? Yeah. Then 2019, we were in Montreal. This is because this is Najim's alma mater, and he wanted to have a workshop over there. And then 2023, we were in Le Mans. So this is the 6th time we are outside Hopkins. We're starting to do this alternate year pattern. And so we'll continue to do this hopefully in the future. Right? By the way, these workshops over the years have created a lot of lifelong collaborations, friendships, memories. I just have some random pictures in case you know any of these people. The first picture resulted in this graphical modeling toolkit, GMTK. And what you see is Peng Shu, who's, I think, still in Google DeepMind somewhere, I don't know. Jeff Bilms, who's a professor at UW. Further back is Jeff Zweig, who used to be with Meta. I don't know where he is nowadays. The second group is a bunch of people who worked on the computational network toolkit, or just neural net toolkit at Microsoft, Dong Yu, and others. By the way, Dong was responsible for one of the biggest breakthroughs in speech recognition using neural models to do recognition. And Franz Ock, on the third picture, actually finished a workshop, joined Google the next year, and started Google Translate. So you can attribute Google. But he was also a grad student in that first team I mentioned with Kevin Knight, who resurrected machine translation. So yes, so Google Translate owes its origin to JSALT. And the undergrads, adding them was a good success. Remember I mentioned Cynthia Ko in the very first workshop? Today she's a professor of the practice at Carnegie Mellon. He teaches students how to do startups. Noah Smith was in the 99 workshop that did the machine translation. He's a professor now at University of Washington in Seattle. David Kirsch is the CTO of a health informatics company. I think he was in 2000, I can't remember. Rachel Rudinger is an assistant professor in Maryland. So all you undergrads, we have very high expectations of you. Just remember that. CTO, professor, or something like that. All right? Okay. Okay. All right. Now here's the thing. This is nice history, but the summer workshop is not just in the summer. As Honza, Radim, Renata, Karen back in Hopkins, and Ruth will tell you, it's a year-long activity. And this is one of the things Yannick left us. He's like, no, you're not just doing this in the summer. You're going to work on it all year round to make sure it happens. So we start all the way back in September, putting out a call for proposals, asking people what kind of ideas are worth working on, and so on and so forth. I won't bother you with all the details of this chart. I'll just walk you through what we did this year. And if you want to look at it later, you can look at it if you like. Yeah, okay. So we started in September and said, hey, let's get some ideas together on what we want to do in 2025 in Brno, right? So we put out a call and said, hey, here are some topics we think are important, but anything you think is interesting, please suggest it to us. So we wanted to do text understanding, speech understanding, multimodal understanding, and of course, we wanted to also think about responsible AI, like equity and like fairness and preventing abuse and so on and so forth. So we got a very nice response. We received 24 ideas saying, hey, by the way, an idea just meant you write a page and say, this is what I think the workshop team could work on, right? 6 of them were not suitable for running in a workshop format, but the others were. And so we invited the other 18 people and said, oh, come to Baltimore. We're going to spend 2 days together and we'll brainstorm and thrash out these ideas, right? And the 4 of them couldn't come for travel reasons. So we ended up having 14 ideas on the table to say, okay, what do we do with them, right? And the way we do it is we get a bunch of other reviewers. So there were altogether 46 professors or senior researchers in the room. And we actually sit down and brainstorm it's not like you write a proposal, somebody reviews it, gets a score, and you get it. No. You go there, somebody asks you, why about this? Like, why this, why not that? And we argue, and we discuss, and we brainstorm. 2 full days, morning to evening. And we bring the food there so that nobody has an excuse to leave the room. And at the end of the 3 days, we basically vote on them. So it's an interesting mix of discussing, arguing the merits of something, but at the same time, also in the end, sitting down, taking 5 minutes and thinking, okay, these are the ideas on the table. Which ones do I think are the most powerful or the most ready for exploring this summer? And so we did this, and then in the end, we got 3 really competitive proposals out of that meeting. And then we have a cooperation with the European grant Esperanto, which also is part of JSALT for the last 3 years. And in parallel, another project was developed with the Esperanto partners. It went through an ad hoc review, and this is how we ended up with 4 teams this summer, right? So these are the 4 teams. The first one is going to work on, it's a mouthful, EMMA is the short name, end-to-end, multi-channel, multi-talker ASR, so many people talking in the room. You don't want your models to get confused about who's saying what. So that's led by Lukáš, and there's Samuel. Samuel is the co-leader, and this team has 5 senior members, 8 graduate students, 2 undergraduates, and when I say 4 affiliates, what I mean is these are people who are not going to be here all the time. So to qualify in the first 3 groups, students have to be here for 8 weeks, and faculty or senior people have to be here for 6 weeks. So if you're only here for 3 weeks, you're in that 4th category. I mean, it's still part of the team, don't get me wrong, but I just keep my books this way. All right, so this is another team, player part, that's led by Ricard Marxer over here, and this team has 6 other senior people, 8 grad students, 3 undergrads, and they're going to work on large language models. Can they produce authentic dialogue and stick to a script? If you tell them this is your personality, this is your patient profile, and you're going to interact with the doctor, can it stick to that profile and simulate a real conversation? The third team is called AuGI, Audio General Intelligence, using large audio language models or maybe large multimodal language models. It's led by Ramani Duraiswami over here, and Santosh, where is Santosh? Santosh Kesiraju, he'll be here soon. And it has 3 other senior members, 13 graduate students, 2 undergrads, and a number of affiliates who will come and go. And then the last one is text-to-speech, which is speech synthesis for low-resource languages. And this is led by Yannick. I saw Yannick Estève over there. And this has 12 senior members, 8 graduate students, and 1 affiliate. Is Murray here already? Maybe not. OK, so anyway, we have 1 affiliate who will be here for a short time. So these are the 4 teams. And at this point, I think I'm ready to turn it over to them. Oh, maybe one last thing. So these workshops require a lot of commitment from people. As I said, to count, you really have to be here 6 or 8 weeks. And 71 such people have made this commitment this summer. So we have 20 women, 51 men, if you want to do demographics. Like, some of my sponsors, National Science Foundation, they often ask me for this kind of data. So I tally it up, and sometimes I find, and then I found it's worth sharing with everybody as well. Part-time means these people won't be here full-time, some as little as 1 week, some as much as 3 weeks. And so we have the demographics by gender. In terms of training level, about half the participants have PhDs and half of them don't. So it's a real nice mix of, like I said, people who don't know what can't be done, so they'll do it. And then, of course, 90% of us are academics, 10% are from industry. This is a nice mix. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes less. In that 46% planning meeting I told you about, it was more like 40% people from industry doing the brainstorming. So we have always had continuous industry involvement. So this is us, and we're going to have a, tremendous, super busy 6 more weeks, 2 already and 6 coming up. We'll work 16 hours a day. Don't worry, you won't even know you worked 16 hours. And we'll produce good stuff. Altogether, I think we'll produce about 6 or 7 person years worth of effort in the next 6 weeks. So we'll have fun. I think that's my last slide. Let me check. Yep. And I'm ready to switch over to the first team. Honza, you want to do the rest of it? Yeah.
Just thank Sanjeev for his introduction and very compact presentation. I heard it several times, but I'm always very pleased with what is happening. Thanks also, Mr. Rector, yes. Mr. Vice Dean.
Thank you.
Mr. Dean that is hiding here. And yeah, see you guys, hopefully at the last final presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's Lukáš and Samuel Estève. So I don't know how do you organize yourselves, guys.
So when you're ready, we should switch to notebook.
Yep.
Whoever is speaking should put on the microphone.
So the plan is to do the 2 technical presentations now, then we will have a short hygienic break, then the 2 other presentations and some kind of technical or logic.
You are running it from the web, right? Or
well,
online?
I'm already switched off. No problem.
No, it should be unmuted. 1, 2, 3. I guess that works. Hey, it's okay. So, can people hear me? I don't know whether it goes to the. Okay, good. So we will make it as 2-man show because the Sanjeev says always that I'm that I'm the maybe I yes. Can you hear me or is it? Okay, hopefully it goes. Try to put it still closer to my mouth. better, or I don't know. I cannot hear it from. Okay, hopefully I will try to speak loud, and hopefully people will hear me. So we will make it a two-man show because Sanjeev always says that I'm the team leader and Samuel is co-team leader, but this team actually happened came to life from joining two proposals, mine and Samuel's, and I consider that this merge to be, both of us to be equally important. So we will try to also split this today's presentation. So the name of our team is end-to-end multi-channel, multi-talker ASR. You see that I have to read it from the slide because I don't remember that even. And here we have a list of people on our team. So you see that I'm putting me and Samuel as the team leaders, both of us. And we have, as Sanjeev already said, another 4 senior members. I will eventually maybe introduce some, or some of them will be introduced through this presentation. And well, I guess that I don't have to spend time here. You can actually find all the members of the teams on the official pages. But we are quite international, so basically people from Czech Republic, the US, which would be JHU, CMU, another university from, what was it? From US, USTC, from China. We have people from India. We have affiliates from Japan, people from France. So when we were making our meetings before the workshop, it was really difficult to set up the time so that people are starting from Japan, going to the US, was that everybody could make it for the meeting. Okay, so what is the problem that we are looking into? So as I already said, multi-talker, multi-channel ASR. So when people speak about ASR these days, usually people consider automatic ASR, automatic speech recognition, to be solved problems, right? They can now run Whisper or many different ASR systems, like any operating system can talk with you, or you can communicate with voice. So what is the problem that we have still to solve? So the main problem is that the ASR systems nowadays really achieve very good performance, but on problems where there is a single speaker talking, mostly just clean speech, maybe speech recording from closed talk microphone. But if you look at the problems like what we see here on this picture, where there are people in a meeting and the people can have parallel conversations, or they are jumping into each other's speech, they are recording through devices, through some distant microphones, then this is much more difficult problem, which is something that was exemplified by chime challenges. So this picture is actually one of the sub-challenges in chime challenges, the not so far challenge, where this is basically meeting recordings. And we can see that when we try to deal with such data, then the performance is still quite poor. And maybe one of the main reasons for that is that we have still quite limited amount of training data for these cases. Like we have lots of transcribed speech from individual speakers, but having transcribed meeting recordings, we definitely don't have tens of thousands or nowadays even millions of hours that the big speech recognizers are trained on. Okay, and here is another example of the same thing. So this is even from the previous chime challenges, which is maybe even more difficult. So it was dinner party conversation. You had actually a flat which had several different rooms, and there were 4 participants that could move from room to room. There were microphones in different rooms. A participant could even lead parallel conversations, or they could talk to each other. And the problem here is really, we would like to transcribe all the speech spoken by all the speakers. And even more, we should attribute the speech to the individual speaker. So the problem is now we have input which comes from multiple microphone. It goes to a system which should solve both problems, diarization and automatic speech recognition. So in other words, diarization says how many speakers are in this conversation, who is speaking when, and then transcribing the speech of the individual speakers. And the output of some such system should look something like what we have on this picture. So it should say, from this time to this times, this particular speaker said this particular sequence of words. Right? So the more complex than just a simple speech recognizer as we maybe, or as everybody knows it. Okay, so what are the approaches to this problem? Like pretty much the standard approaches to this multi-talk and multi-channel speech recognition is that we first run diarization system that tries to identify how many speakers are there and who speaks when. Then speech separation, so it would be block which tries to separate speech of the individual speakers, and the standard thing now, GSS, is a system which takes diarization as the input, so it knows who is speaking when, and it tries to separate speech of these individual speakers. And then the separated speech goes into automatic speech recognition, and it tries to transcribe individual speakers. And already, if you think about it, I think there is something, the ASR is missing something. It doesn't hear the whole conversation. It actually hears just single parties in this conversation and tries to recognize what was said, but by listening just to each individual speaker. So then this is not even the complete information. Then there are maybe different approaches to this thing, so which mostly differ in which order we run these different subsystems, but the common thing would be there are different subsystems that tries to solve these different problems. So there would be other approach would be that you first try to run separations, which tries to separate overlapping speakers and output speech of individual speakers, and then diarization on top of it, and then ASR, or you first run speech separation, the ASR, and only once you recognize the speech of individual speakers, you try to attribute the speech to individual speakers. So here we could think of it as the diarization is run only at the end. Anyway, if we look at the best performing systems these days, and here what we see in this table, this is basically what the first picture that I have shown you, this not so far challenge as part of Chime challenge. And so if you look at the best performing systems in this challenge, then, well, at least here the first two and many others would be this kind of system. So it would be a system which uses some pipeline of this individual system. Each of these blocks in the pipeline solves one particular problem, and then you just combine things together, you get a final performance. The problem that is these systems are quite complicated. So if you look at the winning system, which is this USTC system from USTC, then this is just some block schemes which shows how many different components we have there. And if we would start looking at things, what is in there with some reverberation, then overlap speech detection, I actually start with this thing. So reverberation, overlap speech detection, and there would be source separation, the separated, source separated speech, so separating voices of individual speakers goes into diarization system, but the output of diarization systems goes into another source separation system, or which should be already enhanced by knowing something about the diarization. The output of the separation systems goes again into diarization system, and at the end, the separated speech goes to automatic speech recognition system. But if you look at the scheme, there is actually many more blocks and many more interleaving diarization source separation blocks. So coming to very complex system with many different blocks, output of one block is input to another one. If one block makes an error, then this error is going to propagate. So hopefully not the ideal solution. Well, is it ideal solution or not? This is the best performing system after all. So this is what the best we can do at the moment. We thought that we could do is that we could try to simplify this whole pipeline. So again, if we would come with the standard pipeline, diarization, source separation, ASR, what we actually in Brno, together with people from JHU, what we try to do for the same Chime challenge, we try to remove this separation stage, and we try to see the problem as just taking the ASR system, which would be directly conditioned on diarization. So we would run diarization system, who tells us again who speaks when, and we would condition ASR directly on the diarization. So we try to come with such a simple scheme. And this was actually in this challenge, this was the third best system. And so this is you see the BUT-JHU system, which performed quite well, but still, if you look at the main metric, which was the TCP word error rate. So TCP word error rate is actually you have to get the timing of the words of the segments of recognized speech correctly, and you have to also correctly attribute these what was said to individual speakers. If you attribute the text to wrong speaker, it is counted as error. And you can see that on this metric, well, our system had 40% error compared to the winning system, 22%, or it's about twice worse. It was still the third best system, and so we got something significantly simpler, hopefully, but it didn't perform that well. Well, we had limited time to build this system. Over time, we worked on it, and we actually improved it mostly by different back fixing or fixing the problems in the training data. And now we are somewhere at 27%, so much better than 40. But still, so we are trying to catch up with the winning system. Still, there is quite some. We are lacking basically in terms of performance. Anyway, I will try to introduce this system that we have built for the Chime Challenge, mainly as an example of what we are trying to do at this workshop, and also because this system somehow becomes the central piece of many of the efforts that people from our team started working on. So one thing is we are further trying to improve this system. Second, there are people that they are coming with new ideas and they are using our system as maybe some subsystem and build things on top of it and use it to solve different problems in there to basically when trying to work on their ideas. So what was this system? We call it diarization condition whisper. So we try to tackle the problems by basically taking system, which is already well-performing system. Whisper from Microsoft is a wonderfully performing ASR system, but it cannot deal with this multi-channel, multi-talker data. So what we did was we took this system and we tried to turn it into multi-talker ASR. We tried to actually tweak it so that it does something that is called target speaker ASR. So, well, basically, this is what I'm saying that we try to do. We try to assemble this conversational multi-talker, multi-channel ASR system out of already existing pre-trained components, but we try to stitch them together in such a way that even at the initialization, this system already does something sensible and something that we can end-to-end train so that it does this job very well. And well, eventually what we would like to do, and maybe even in the workshop, is that we would like to train this whole system now even in multitask fashion, so individual components of the system can be further trained on respectively labeled data, but the whole thing can be end-to-end trained for the problem of multi-talker ASR. So how does this whole system work? So we have, basically in this picture, we see a scheme of how Whisper ASR looks like. The speech goes in, some encoder, which is based on transformer model. So there are individual blocks of transformer model. This is encoder of Whisper, and the output of the encoder goes into Whisper decoder. So the standard encoder-decoder scheme for ASR. So what we did, we just modified the encoder, and we modified it in such a way that we took diarization system, output of the diarization system, where this picture is trying to tell us that the diarization system decided that in this particular utterance there are 4 speakers talking, and here it tells us in which frame which speaker is talking. So here basically for first 3 frames of speech, the first speaker is talking, but then at third frame he starts overlapping, he starts talking, the second speaker starts talking and overlapping into first speaker, jumps into his speech, and so on. There would be some other speakers talking. We take such output from diarization system, we turn it into something that we talk STNO mask, where STNO stands for silence, target speech, non-target speech, and overlap. And this STNO mask is now specific for one particular speaker that we would like to recognize. So we would as I said, we are turning whisper into target speaker ASR. So now we say we are interested in recognizing the first speaker. Let's make this STNO mask out of the diarization output, where it tells me that the target speaker that I'm interested in speaks in first 2 frames. In the third frame, he overlaps with yet another speaker. In these frames, there is some other speaker speaking, and here in this frame, there is complete silence. And we take this mask, and we condition this whisper on such mask, and we condition it in such a way that we introduce new blocks into this encoder, transformer encoder architecture, blocks which are at the input to each transformer block. And these blocks are just linear transformations. Each of the block basically contains 4 different linear transformations. Each linear transformation corresponds to one of these classes, silent, target, non-target overlap. And basically, the system works in such a way that this transformation frame by frame switches from linear transformation to linear transformation depending on in which frame we are. Are we in the frame from the target speaker, non-target speaker? In order not to break the whole whisper system down, we can initialize these transformations to be just identity transformations. So it basically at the initialization doesn't do absolutely anything. And we can now train the transformation, and we can fine-tune the whole whisper for the target speaker ASR problem. We actually found that if we come even with smarter initialization, that we try to initialize this silence and non-target speech transformation into something that it suppresses the data flow, then this system actually starts being a reasonable target speaker ASR only at the initialization, and then we fine-tune it to work as a very good target speaker ASR. In our system, we have, so the input to our system on the previous slide is the output from diarization system. In our case, we built on diarization system, which is one of the components is end-to-end diarization system, which on short 8-second segments decides how many speakers we have in 8-second segments and who speaks when. And these local decisions are then processed by extracting speaker embedding and clustering speaker embeddings in order to basically map these local decisions across the whole utterance. The important component in our system is that in this case we actually built on top of pre-trained WAF-LM model. And again, so it would be WAF-LM model, which output of the WAF-LM models goes, I'm skipping the details, but goes into conformer, which we need to train, and finally into classification head, which basically makes frame-by-frame decisions telling us how many speakers we have here and which speakers are speaking. The advantage of building on top of, again, big pre-trained model is that we were able to actually train this diarization system on a relatively small amount of target multi-talker, multi-channel data. And even to make things even more interesting, the WAF-LM model is large, but we actually found, so the Zhang Yu, who is also our student here from Brno and who works on the system, was running experiments where we actually prune the big WAF-LM model. We can reduce the model to about 15% of its original size, and we even improve performance by actually pruning the system, by making it smaller at the end. And just advertisement, this is not going through all these numbers, but if you would look at the very last row, these are basically state-of-the-art performance numbers currently on different data sets for diarization, where people evaluate system for diarization. And our system, if you look at the last row, is actually outperforming all the current systems. So it is truly, it provides truly state-of-the-art performance at the moment. Perhaps one slide that I will be commenting on. This is, I'm coming back to the ASR system, to multi-talk ASR system, this diarization condition whisper that I introduced just on the moment ago. And the one interesting thing is that the guys from our lab also participated in this interspeech MLC CLM challenge, which is multi-talker recognition of data in different languages. And they actually built system which placed second. So and if you look at the result, it's virtually about the same as as the winning system. I guess that if they had 1 week more, then they would win with, with this system. Anyway, the interesting thing on this, that we see here on this example is that they actually use the whisper fine-tuned for dealing with this multiple speakers in the utterance. But when we fine-tuned the whisper, we only fine-tuned it on English data. But here they just took the system, fine-tuned on English data, and run it on many different languages. I don't know how many languages were there. Can you remember? 10 different languages, and it just performed wonderfully. So by fine-tuning it for the basic fine-tuning whisper, so that it does the task of target speaker ASR or multi-talker ASR, it didn't break the functionality of whisper that was trained on many different languages. It didn't train these multilingual capabilities of it. It can still deal with all the languages, even though that it was fine-tuned only on English data to be multi-talker or target speaker ASR system. And I will hand it over to...
I think you can use... how much left? Like 5 minutes, I think. Okay, I'll try to speed run on maybe some of the stuff. Like what Lukáš described is still a cascade system. It's simplified, right? You don't have to do the separation, but you condition directly the ASR with the diarization output. But it's still a pipeline system. So what we want to do is like... maybe we want to have a modular end-to-end approach where we adjust the diarization parameters with the ASR loss directly. So we jointly optimize the two models. Or maybe we just want a fully end-to-end approach where you just have a big monolithic model and you predict with a sequence-to-sequence model the text plus the speaker attribution plus the timestamps. So this was... so both approaches have their own strong and weaknesses. Like the monolithic is simpler. It would be nice to have a monolithic approach, but it's data hungry. Like you need to see lots of data to generalize to multiple speaker and also learn reliable timestamps and so on. And it could be more brittle. While the modular approach, as Lukáš said, you get for free like generalization if you use Whisper towards different languages and so on, because you can leverage a pre-trained model on which was trained on lots of data. So. For example, like I know that Dominic is working now on how to basically turn DCAO into a full-fledged end-to-end modular approach. Yeah, he has an exam like on Thursday, so he didn't have the results yet, but otherwise he would have. So the idea is, we can start with end-to-end neural diarization model, just a vanilla one, and do long-form training, and then you can just run the end-to-end neural diarization, the whole recording, get logits for each speaker, and then we can use the logit, the soft probabilities to condition the ASR system. And this is it's training right now pretty much, so we'll get the results like in a few days. And but one disadvantage of this approach is maybe you still have to run Whisper on the whole all the speakers separately. So like another idea is just to use a CERT like approach, and this is mainly from Shiluo and Matt, like to basically turn the diarization into a stream level speaker assignment, where you have you put the speakers on the second channel only when there is overlap, so you can just run the DCAO only 2 times at most, because often you have at most 2 speakers overlap. So let's speed run over this. And there are also other approaches like we are working on, like this, like Martin Concours is also working on try to do the monolithic approach. And yeah, basically it's just try to, instead of having again like a pass for each speaker, you run the decoder on all the speakers, and you jointly model all the speakers with the timestamp and the speaker ID symbol. And of course, like the results are very good in my opinion for ISOT system, but they struggle a lot, especially on the not so far data, because it has 8 speakers. So the more speakers, it's difficult to find the real data where you have like 8 speakers. You can find maybe 4, a lots of 2 speakers data from telephone speech, but for 8 speakers, it's we don't have data. So Yeah, like this is another approach, like which it's from Mark, NTT, and Chechen. Like it's a kind of they are trying like a kind of in-between approach where it's basically it's still like a SOT system, but instead of text, you predict the acoustical units. So. Tokens, acoustic tokens from a WaveLM discretize the representation, and then you can have a task-specific decoder for each channel, like for ASR, for TTS, or for diarization, for example. And regarding multi-channel processing, we want to try like transform average concatenate approach. I will skip we are out of time, but basically we just have intercommunication channels from, you run in parallel the model on many channels, and then you put some intercommunication module to make them communicate and exploit the multi-channel information. And Mark Degin is working on integrating spatial features. You basically take spatial features like cosine sine, interchannel phase differences from each pairs of channel. You concatenate and then you feed to each of the models that are running parallel for each channel. And regarding LLM integration, I think it's worth to mention it because the AuGI team, it's maybe there is a potential collaboration. Jundu, I don't have time to explain this, unfortunately. It's complicated, it's super cool, I think. And it's a very cool idea. Like they are trying to basically leverage LLMs to do utterance and word speaker ID assignment with fusing both acoustical level diarization information from X vectors and text information. They have some cool numbers, some very promising results, I would say. It's working to some extent, but it's the word assignment improves only marginally, so there is additional work to do. It's cool. We have 6 weeks, so hopefully we can make something. And just very briefly, like I told, SOT is data hungry. Like the monolithic approach is very data hungry. So we have lots of 2 speakers, but very few 4 speakers data. I think we have to do simulation, like player part. They are also considering this. So maybe let's join the efforts in this, because at best what we can do now is just take audiobook recordings and make them overlap, and they sound like very bad. Like they sound like 2 speakers like reading in the same room, and it's the best we can do for more than 2 speakers, unfortunately. So. Yeah, that's basically it. I try to, to speed run through it, but hopefully you understood something.
And I owe apologies too.
It's fine.
To Samuel for taking too much time, and this first thing, and second to OpenAI, that I was told that I said that Whisper comes from Microsoft. So sorry, OpenAI. Of course, that comes from OpenAI. So,
if you have any questions, sorry for being very fast.
Thank you. You see, you didn't have to be that fast. Right?
No, I was perfectly clear. In 5 minutes, probably everyone understood everything. So. No, it's.
Any questions? Or everybody is looking? No, they still want to talk. There is no.
Question from the player part team. How audible do you assume that individual speakers need to be in these systems? Like, if somebody is just super far from any microphones and they're like really, really quiet, is that something that matters? Like, how do you think about those questions?
Yeah. I mean, you will have to do, you will have to account.
Great, that's okay. We can just.
You will have to take into account that like for sure, like the difference in intensity and so on. And the only thing you can do right now is just, okay, maybe you can take a TTS system and then run it through image method, for example, and simulate the reverberation and also the difference in intensity. It would be cool to have an end-to-end model, but then how you train an end-to-end 4-speaker TTS model with no data? It's a chicken and egg problem. So can you leverage existing TTS systems which are single channel, very clean speech, and maybe fine-tune it? No. Let's find out. It may be possible. I have some ideas.
Just reaction to that thing also. I mean, recognizing speech that us as humans, we can recognize, and I would say that I guess that we should be able to do that. Actually, when we were trying to listen to what this whisper fine-tuned to target speaker ASR can do, I think that it can do maybe better than I guess the native speakers have to tell us, but we were trying to actually mix speech completely out of different speakers, and you try to understand what people are saying. Definitely you cannot understand 100% because there is really open up speech, and I think that this whisper tuned to target speaker ASR does definitely better than me, and maybe better than native speakers even sometimes, because it's hard to really understand what they are saying. Maybe one of the problems is, what are we supposed to recognize is, for example, our system is based on diarization system. So whenever diarization says speaker is speaking, it tries to recognize that particular speaker. But already this diarization system can be problematic because the diarization is not actually well-defined problem. Like what are the speakers in the conversation? If I'm in a restaurant and the speakers are speaking in the background, am I supposed to identify those? If there is a music and somebody's singing in the music, is that also a voice that I'm supposed to recognize as voice? So it's not really well-defined problem. So I guess it mostly depends on the definition of the task and what we say that it is supposed to do.
Yeah. So thank you, Lukáš and Samuele. And we continue with the Play Your Part team, and the presentation will be done by Ricard Marxer.
Yes. Thank you.
Can you guys hear it?
Can you hear me now? Yeah?
Yeah.
All good? Great. Okay. So we are the Play Your Part team. We work on dialogue generation. And, well, I'll present the team at the end, but let me start by why do we do this, right? Why are we doing dialogue generation? Well, there's many applications of doing this, and some of them predate quite a bit the time of AI. Actually, one of the first uses of dialogue generation was to do patient simulation. And as we can see, this is the 1970s, and I really like this, this press release about it can get sick on command 30 times a day. And this, in this context, this is a very good patient. But even nowadays, we can find patient simulation in games, like here, this medical diagnostic simulator. They are not doing a really good job. I don't know if you can read it, but it gets like a mostly negative score. So I think we can do much better than that, and there's work to be done. So this is basically when you want to train a professional to conduct a diagnostic, to do a first care visit or stuff like this. But we have other cases in which dialogue generation is important, or training these professionals, like customer service, emergency calls, personal assistance, even the air traffic controllers. I know they use this quite often, the simulations. And all of these were things that came up in our first meeting in JSALT when we were discussing about generating dialogues. There were many different people with many different use cases of this. So this is probably one of the first applications of dialogue generation, but it's not the only one. Actually, later on during the project, we got a lot of people interested in this project because it could be also used to train, for instance, diagnostic, how we conduct diagnostics, how AI systems conduct diagnostics, and this is one of the things that has in JHU also was interested for doing this. Finally, one other case, perhaps this is the one that I was also interested in, Thomas as well, is we want to synthesize data. Any data synthesis is very useful. It has been useful for a long time in computer science because we have very good synthesizer. We can synthesize and render data very easily. And this was used to train object detection or all kind of CV, like computer vision methods. But also in speech, it has become very important to be able to synthesize speech in a realistic way. And here we have seen a lot of models that are now trained on synthetic data, whether it's for fine-tuning. In some cases, pre-trained is also using synthetic data, but it's very rare still. But as Samuel was mentioning, one of our interests is being able to train, for instance, end-to-end text-to-speech models or ASR models. But there are many challenges ahead. Dialogue generation is very difficult even with LLMs nowadays because we get loss of consistency when we are generating very long dialogues. We need to be able to represent correctly the cohorts that we are trying to generate. So this is the different type of personalities, different type of communication styles, etc. And also, in many cases, we have real limited amount of data. For instance, in the medical domain, there's very little data available because it's for privacy concerns. Finally, it's also very difficult to evaluate what is a good generated conversation, okay? And the last bit is how do we control this generation? Do we just prompt it and let the generation happen? Should we be able to steer towards where this dialogue goes? So these are all open questions on how to solve them. And this is why we are joining the forces in this workshop to try to tackle all of these. So our main goal of the workshop is we are trying to go through a persona-based generation of using role-playing LLMs, and we think this is one of the things that could solve many of these problems. For one, we see that we can improve coherence, or we think we can improve coherence and consistency. We can also increase the diversity. There are some works that have shown this, like the Persona Hub work. We can also facilitate evaluation because we can ask, for instance, the system or another system, is the persona following these attributes, or does it have these characteristics, and see if it matches what we requested. There's the persona-based approach is also good because when we don't have some structured representation of the dialogue, this persona-based approach can allow us to still control the dialogue. For instance, if we are not doing task-oriented dialogues where we have a very clear objective, maybe the persona-based approach can steer this dialogue towards where we want to go. And finally, this persona-based approach is very generalizable. We just have to define a different persona, a different scenario, and we get a very different dialogue. So we are going to focus ourselves on the doctor-patient conversations. This is one of our use cases and the main use case we're gonna treat. First of all, the reasons for that is because we can make a huge impact on society. We all know healthcare is extremely important. We think that AI can be a key player in this. We also think that the medical domain is one of the most impacted ones by the lack of data, and I think synthetic data here will be very, very useful. It's also a very constrained domain. So the type of vocabulary that is used is very specific. It's very specific for the doctor, but also the patient, the way they speak, the way they are communicating can be very tricky. Finally, there's a huge variety of scenarios, of patients, of cases that will give us a very large playground to actually test different ideas. And finally, there's a lot of literature, actually more than what I thought there was. When we started doing the reading groups, we find that there's a lot of work being done in this domain, and still it remains a big, big problem. Okay, so I think it's a very good problem to tackle. But that said, the team was made of many different sub-projects or many different motivations, and we will be tackling very different stuff like task-oriented dialogues or this problem of simply persona overriding cases. Okay. So how do we do this? This is our main goal. We want to advance persona-based dialogue generation with LLMs, and we subdivided this on several tasks. Okay. The first one is how to define the personas and scenarios, and how to use that definition to generate the dialogues. And we'll have one task force working on that. Another one will be working on how do these persona dialogue generation are implemented on the actual activations of the LLM. So we are going to do mechanistic interpretability to try to understand how the concepts of a persona, their attributes, etc., are represented in the activations and the weights of the network. We will also have a whole group working on evaluating these dialogues, and another one working on transforming these dialogues into audio, so synthesizing the audio of the dialogues. Let's go into one by one and see where we are and where we are going. Okay. So in terms of defining personas, what we have to decide is how do we define, for instance, what is a scenario for a doctor-patient visit, okay? And here, it's also quite tricky. We have to define what is the doctor persona, what are their attributes, you know, is it what specialty that doctor is, maybe how much time does it have to conduct this interview, all the different external factors that might affect the way he conducts a dialogue, but also those of the patient, okay? The demographics of the patient, their personality, their background, etc., things that can change the way in which they will dialogue with the doctor. And finally, we also want to ensure that the distribution of cases of different diseases or reasons for which we are going to the doctor are well represented. So we are also working on gathering information, statistics of the different reasons for which one goes to the doctor, and we are trying to sample from them and have a good representation of reality. We will, however, focus on first consultations and primary care because it's a way to constrain our problem. So the way we are doing this, we are gathering references and statistics of different cases. For instance, how many people are uninsured when they go to a first visit, how many, the different reasons for which, the different conditions for which they have been treated, or different reasons for which they are going. And we are trying to be able to generate same cases from this data itself. Okay, this will give us a route from which to generate the dialogue. We have collected already quite a bit of work here, and we have already started on using this data to condition the generation of the dialogue. Okay. And one of the big questions that is coming, and it's actually a debate we're having internally, is whether it's better to have one LLM generating the whole dialogue, or it's better to have several LLMs acting as agents and generating interactively this dialogue. We see clear benefits and disadvantages in both cases, and it's something that we would like to test and come up with some answers to this question. So the other aspect we are going to dive into is this idea of mechanistic interpretability and basically how this dialogue generation happens within the network itself, and trying to see what we can do from the activation level. So in this case, we focus on two main axes. One is a more applied research, on which we are asking more concrete questions about how these activations affect the behavior of the LLM. For instance, one question that we are asking ourselves is the multilingual scenario, whether the use of code switching or the use of different languages, how does it, are there like directions in the features in the activation space that relate to changes in language? Are there words that cannot be said in a different language, and can this be reflected in the activation? So these are questions that we think are important, especially in cases with patients that have different languages. We also think it's very important to try to get into this idea of theory of mind. How does the other person, the other interlocutor, get represented in the activation space? So is there something that can tell us the other person has these beliefs? Finally, we also would like to study all these personality traits, how they are represented in this level. Okay, and also hallucinations, like specific cases where it goes bad, where it goes out of persona, or where it gets into a loop or something like that. Can we see this in the activation level? Because this would allow us maybe to steer it better. But we also have some questions that are more fundamental. For instance, how does the data in which we train the LLM affect the way in which these activations are built? You know, how the monosemanticity or the polysemanticity appears, and at what point during training does it appear? So this is another aspect we would like to study. And finally, the use of supervision to create this disentanglement in the activation space that is often used in mechanistic interpretability. So these are more fundamental questions, but that would help us develop the further aspects of dialogue generation. Finally, how to evaluate these dialogues. So for the evaluation of dialogues, here we have several questions. We ask ourselves, well, what is the best way to decide whether a dialogue is good or not? And I think this is dependent on the applications we have in mind, of course. But it will always be based on some type of human expertise in knowing whether this is what it looks like a real dialogue or not. So one of the first ways we are going to try to study this is with human experts. And we are lucky enough to have in the team Has, who is a medical doctor, and Adam, who is also a medical doctor, that actually conduct these type of dialogues. And they can tell us very well whether they look as good dialogues or not, or realistic dialogues or not. So this will be one of our first ways to assess whether these dialogues are realistic. But we want this, this evaluation to be conducted at a larger scale. Can we use, for instance, systematic tools or automatic tools to decide whether these dialogues are good or not? And here we are looking at LLM as a judge, but also quantitative metrics on linguistic or acoustic features to see if they match those of reality or not. And we also want to be innovative and see if learning-based approaches like the use of embeddings or trajectories in this embedding space can help us decide whether a dialogue belongs to a certain distribution or not. So for the human and LLM judgments, currently there's no baseline for how a human should assess a dialogue or not. So this is actually active research, and we are looking at different ways in which different groups are doing it. What kind of questions do you ask the human to match, well, to assess the quality of these dialogues? And we also are looking at how to use the LLM to produce those. So one of our first approaches might be using the LLM with a kind of a very simple scoring measure, like saying, okay, tell me from 1 to 5, how good is this dialogue or how realistic it looks like. But we can also ask the LLM or the human in different axes, how is this, how good is the dialogue? For instance, we can ask it whether it is consistent throughout, or whether it sticks to a particular attribute. We could go even further, and we could ask the LLM, for instance, if the character or the persona in this dialogue had a particular way of communicating. Was it introvert? Was it angry? Was it, And if this matches the attributes we gave to generate the dialogue, where it's a way to know if it's consistent to our prompts or not. So this is one way in which we are considering using the LLM-based approach as well. But another way to test whether these dialogues look like the real dialogues or not is simply by looking at some statistics on the dialogues. For instance, we could look at the average turn length in number of words. How much does each person talk? And see if that matches that of real data or not. And our first preliminary results, we can see that the distributions are quite far. So perhaps our data set is talking way too much, or our dialogue generation is talking way too much than the actual ones that we have in a role-play situation. So this is not really real data, it's enacted data. So there might be a mismatch there as well. But this is the kind of evaluation that we can use to match with the data we might have, okay? And we can look at different aspects like the number of turns, the length of the turns. We can also look at the vocabulary used. So these indices here measure how complex the speech is or how easy to understand it is, and we can match that to our data and to that of real data. We can also do this not only at a data set level, but at a conversation level. And here it becomes quite interesting because we can see the dynamics of the conversation. So for instance, we can see that in a primary care conversation, usually they have not a script, but kind of some steps that the doctor has to follow. So it starts by some opening, like very large questions and letting the patient talk a lot to try to gather as much information as possible. And as the doctor gets an idea of what is happening, they will start to talk more, ask more questions, give explanations, maybe conduct some examinations. And finally, it's the doctor that speaks. And we can see this if we look at the length in words of the conversation of the patient and of the doctor. And we can see the patient starts talking a lot, but then it talks less and less, and it's more the doctor that ends up talking a lot. And this is something we would also like to match to get a very realistic dialogue. If we look at one particular dialogue, we can see things like the physical exam will have a huge drop in speech. So it's actually a moment where they are maybe consulting the patient, and there are no words at all. They're silent because they want to listen to the breathing or stuff like this. At one point, also, the doctor will actually type in their notes on the computer, maybe do some order, and at the end, they might have a dictation or talking to the patient about what should we do next. Okay. So another way in which we want to assess these dialogues is based on these embeddings that these LLM produce. And maybe here is where Sergio and the team has already done work with the dialogue flows, and we would like to go a bit further on this idea and see if the trajectories in this embedding space of dialogues can be used to see if a dialogue belongs to a particular distribution or not. So for instance, we could look if the trajectory of a particular dialogue comes from a distribution of real dialogues, or looking at categories of dialogues. For instance, a dialogue that was a happy path, that follow a happy path, does it match closer those of the happy path? And using these embeddings to match dialogues can be very powerful as well, because maybe it can be used as a way to steer the dialogue. Okay. So there are some first experiments that we have thought to do here. One is using the STAR dataset, which is an enacted dataset that has created artificial bad paths and happy paths. And like that, we have a case in which we can measure these things with actual annotations. So finally, how to move from text to audio. And here I'm going to give you a few examples so that you realize the difficulty of the situation we are treating here. Let's have a look at, I'll just put a short excerpt of this, but this is a video of how to conduct, I don't know if you have a sound.
I felt really lightheaded.
Thank you.
And I felt like my heart was racing, and I thought I was about to pass out.
Okay. Have you ever had anything like this before?
I've had one previous episode where it felt like my heart was racing, and I was gonna go to the ER. I was actually on my way there, and my symptoms just kind of went away, so I decided to turn around and drive home.
So just to give you a quick, grasp of what type of audio we are looking at generating, is audio in which maybe the speaker is lying down. This is things where TTS has not been trained on. Maybe the speaker is kind of dizzy. There's a lot of noise in the background. We are in a hospital, and the people are far away from the mics. Okay, so it's not the type of audio we are used to. There's very low SNR. There are sounds. We will hear now other examples in which we can hear sounds in the background. Sorry. So here we will hear a few examples. This is enacted by people in our team. Maybe you will recognize them. But you will hear some examples in which we hear like background noise. You will hear a door knocking. You will hear some other real noises. And this is kind of what we would like to generate, because this is the realistic situation that we are trying to create ASR on. Oh, no.
Yeah. Hi, doctor. What's going on? I think I have very, very bad food poisoning. I have some. Wait, hold on one second. We gotta log in here.
So,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, no problem. All right.
So you see, there's also interruptions. There's also hesitations. This realistic speech is what we would like to achieve. Of course, we are very far away from this, but we will get little by little closer and closer. And we would like to actually synthesize the sound events as well, synthesize the background noise, and this type of difficult cases. So we have started on that, and here we have the work that Yang has been already starting, and they are doing some with zero shot. We are able to present a very small piece, for instance, kind of like it wasn't the same video, but a very similar video to the one I showed you on YouTube. We use one sentence of that to condition the model, and we are able to synthesize doctor-patient conversations with this type of voice.
Thank you for sharing that. Have you experienced any other symptoms along with the chest pain, such as shortness of breath, sweating, nausea, or dizziness?
Okay, and this would be a patient voice?
Yes, I feel short of breath, and I'm sweating a lot. I also feel a bit nauseated, but I haven't vomited.
So we can create kind of these voices that can look like a doctor, can look like a patient, and I think we are at a good point to start actually working these weeks on this type of work. So what kind of outcomes we expect from our project? Well, we would like to have a persona-based dialogue generation library, and actually here is something where we have already a good kickstart. But we would also like to produce code for doctor-patient dialogues, models of audio synthesis, or at least prompts or ways to use the models of audio synthesis in this particular case. We'd like to come up with some tools in mechanistic interpretability and some evaluation methods that are ready to use for others to actually test and advance in this field. So I said in the dialogue generation, we have a good kickstart. We already have a library out there that Sergio has been preparing, and I think this is a really good start to actually work fully this workshop. So this is the team, and may I say a dream team, because only for the small moments I was able to work with them, I have seen that they have gone really, really far, and I think it's going to be a really great JSALT workshop. So thank you, all the team, all of them.
Okay, any questions to Ricard or anyone else from his team? Yes, Martina.
So many of the questions I might ask the specialists of the team to answer them.
Thank you. I would like to ask regarding the last part of the TTS, is it really necessary that you will generate something that sounds like a real thing? Like, is there any particular usage? Maybe you can use it as some training data, but other than that, is it?
Exactly. Yeah, so I think it depends on the use case. I think if you're training an ASR system, you want it to match as much as possible acoustically the real data that they will be using. But even a language understanding system, an end-to-end system that works with this data to pick up on certain things, that will require a best possible match of the acoustic data with the real acoustic data. So yeah, in that case, we will need the reverberation, we will need everything to match as close as possible the real data.
Okay, thank you. And regarding your first part and then the rest of the things that you were presenting, how you would adjust that? Do you plan also to maybe somehow adjust the training, or is it most likely gonna be something that will be like post-training, let's say regarding the evaluations, or maybe something like prompt engineering? Or do you also have some another like techniques in mind that could be used?
So you mean in order to improve these systems of dialogue generation, we are looking at many different ways. Of course, one is prompt engineering, try to make the prompt as best as possible to work with the LLMs. For me, this is always a bit of a problem because it's very dependent on the LLM, right? So if you change the LLM, maybe those prompts don't work with a different one. That's why we are going into the mechanistic interpretability as well, and also we are looking at orchestration and ways in which you can steer as you go, as you generate. You know? All of these are basically different ways in which you can steer this. Fine-tuning is one of them, but actually we are looking at other ways than fine-tuning for now. And maybe this will be one that will come up. But the problem with fine-tuning is data. How do you get data? So we have all these enacted dialogue patient conversations, but this is the particular challenge in our case, is the lack of data. So.
Any other question to Ricard?
Yeah.
Oh, yes?
There.
I don't see you, yeah. Well, we are also streaming it, so...
Thank you. If I understand well, your application, finally your evaluation would be based on the evaluation on another task, which can be like ASR. So, is that true? Or
so the ambitions of our project, maybe the long-term motivation is that, but during the project we are not focusing on building the ASR that will work with this data.
Yeah, but the final evaluation of your synthetic data, that your synthetic data is good or not, you want to use it as a training set or data augmentation for an auxiliary task. We have,
yeah, it's one of the cases, but
Yeah.
we're not looking for that type of evaluation during the course of this workshop.
okay, because we have exactly same scenario in the TTS for all. We call it as a application-grounded evaluation of the TTS, and we would like to do the same thing. My question here is, if you have a targeted test set, how you can guarantee that your synthetic data would not match the test set, and you are in the risk of the overfitting or the risk of degrading the generalization of your data, your system?
I know. So we don't have ground truth tested, right? We would generate it in the same way we generated the training. So of course we cannot test that generalization capability. I think at one point you need real data. Real data in the medical domain is very difficult to acquire. Is not usually accessible in the academic field. So I think it's through collaborations with industry that you might be able to test these generalization capabilities. I fully agree. Is not, maybe that's one of the reasons we are not going into this particular application during the workshop, but we are keeping it in mind while we are doing our work. But yeah, I agree. And I do think there are synergies with the TTS team, so we will have to talk. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a great question. And actually, I think one of the possible outcomes for this workshop for our team is basically creating a data set that has actually a couple of extra challenges that are need to be addressed by other teams, right? So one of the goals here is actually to create data sets that are useful but challenging in some technical aspect, like the length of the conversation and the expected output of an ASR and understanding system that is end-to-end, right? So right now, a lot of systems are pipelines, but I think the future is actually tight integration. And without actually having a real data set, well, a real synthetic data set in this case maybe, it's difficult to develop actually the technology, I think, as we heard in the previous presentation, right? So this is maybe some way to actually get this kick started. At the same time, I think also this workshop is fantastic. There are all teams, they are very well set up for having a lot of synergy, right? So, and quite honestly, we might be contributing to some teams, other teams might help us to get certain things evaluated. So I think we should certainly have a good discussion. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes.
My question would be, do you really believe that this is the correct way of doing things, that you train a system which generates synthetic data on which we want to train another system? Because it obviously sounds like I need to train a complex model, and it has to be more complicated to train a model which generates data on which I am going to train another system. It should be possible to always train, at least that was my philosophy. I should be always able to train system directly on with the same tricks that you want to use here. If I want to train ASR, I should be able to train it on whatever data you will train your speech synthesis system on. I should be able to train the thing. I can see that. The advantages can be that I can synthesize the data, I can listen to it and see how real it is, and maybe I can train some end-to-end simplistic system which I can train on this data, while otherwise maybe I have to again do something more modular. But wouldn't that be always more correct approach and something that has a chance to work better than doing things?
I must say I came along this question many times during the research, because it's a question that comes a lot. I think there's something changing with these generic methods in deep learning, right? We are very capable of producing the forward model, and sometimes the forward model can be very complex. You can integrate a lot of different variability of the data in the forward model, making the inverse model, so going back to what was the text that was said in the audio, can be very challenging in some cases, and trying to integrate all the possible cases there. So yeah, in some situations, if you don't have the data, then maybe synthesizing it can be a way forward. Of course, I would love to have real medical data and train a system that is robust to that data directly. But there's some cases in which you know the problems in the data, you don't have the data, so you can simulate those problems in a synthetic way and hope that they will match the real data. I don't think it's that different. I see it in computer vision. I work in computer vision as well a lot, and we see sometimes you want to create or simulate data, and it's very easy because we have very good renderers. We have very good ways to change textures, to change stuff like that. And actually doing that, we get much better feature matchers or feature extraction than what you could do with inductive biases in the model. So I don't know. I think I like a lot the inductive biases because it's what makes you think it's more the more stimulating part than just generating data, But I do think it has benefits in some cases. So.
Just one final comment. So my question was more like, if I am able to train the model that can generate the data, then I should be able to train the system not just with the inductive biases, but I should be able to train the system which lends the same feature maps at the same thing. So I'm not saying that, yes, you said if I don't have the medical data, but if you are able to train this something that synthesizes something that really sounds like the real medical data, you should be already able to train using the same tricks that you use to build a synthesizer ASR system.
But I think there's an asymmetry. I think there's an asymmetry in synthesizing can be different to estimating the parameters. I think there is some, well, we can discuss this further. Yeah.
Okay, I give Thomas 1 minute because I think this is the question.
Actually, I just want to second Ricard here. I think there's this old analogy where TTS is, well, I don't want to make it sound demeaning or something like that. It's more like putting the toothpaste out of the paste. You're squeezing the toothpaste out while ASR is putting it back into it, right? So, which is very difficult. And therefore, I think there is a strong asymmetry. And if you can put realistic sounding data, or at least having data that has the characteristics of realistic data, very long conversations, multiple speakers. You mentioned that you had difficulties getting 8 speakers into the same room. We usually only deal with 3 or 4, right? So this is something that could be helpful. And actually this is using doctor-patient conversations as one example, but the idea is to create something that could be used for many other applications too. Okay, and then of course, mechanistical interpretability. By the way, I think we are not training too many models to do that.
Training.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Anything else? Yeah.
Lots of questions.
Sorry, very quickly. Will you also work on conversations that have more than 2 people? For example, like a child patient, the parents, the doctor, where they like overlap and have like different turn-taking dynamics?
So yeah, actually Thomas had this point, really he wanted to keep it. I don't know if we left it somewhere, but it was at one point in the presentation. But yes, I think if we are able to do with 2, it shouldn't be too difficult to step add one further. We have to consider how to do it in the 2 different scenarios where we have one single LLM or several LLMs working as agents. But I think nothing is a big blocking for that. And it's something we want to consider because we know that, I think you did the stats, right, Thomas? And it was like half of the consultations, or 45, even less than half of the conversations was with 2 speakers, 35% with 3, and the rest for 3 or more than 3. So it is a common case. We would like to cater for that. Yeah.
Anything else? Nothing. Thank you.
In the beginning, when we sort of lead, yeah. Yeah, I'm up.
Yeah. And so we have the 3rd technical presentation of of this team. It's too long name, the guys will explain themselves. Mm-hmm. So Ramani, Duraiswami, and Santosh Gesiraju.
Okay, I guess you keep that because you have to run around with questions. Okay, so we are team I don't know how to say it. We're sort of thinking AuGI, or a silent U, AGI, but our goal is to advance the processing of audio in large multimodal language models. In that way, the previous two talks are somewhat in the same domain, if you would. But our focus is on building a large audio language model and on evaluating it. Okay. So the team members, we have, let's sort of first show the senior folks. That's me, Santosh, who's sort of local, Alicia from Madrid, Paola from Johns Hopkins, and sort of senior members who participate in all our Zoom meetings, etc., but are remote. Timos, who's part of Esperanto from Athens, Chao from Xinhua, Yuangong on his spare time when he gets it, and David Harvath from UT Austin. Okay. We have a whole bunch of graduate students, some of them local, some of them remote. Actually, there are two members of Phoenicia here who are not graduate students, but they're sort of also participating. So Shreyan Ghosh and Sonal Kumar are two of my graduate students who built a bunch of the tools that we are going to build on top of. And then there are a whole bunch of folks. I think I can confidently say I can associate a name with every face, but I won't go through the list right now. It's been a pleasure meeting all of these folks in this last couple of days. Okay. So if we look at audio as a modality, I'm too loud, and I guess, so if you look at audio as, so let's sort of imagine what's going on with large audio language models. So they are different from how human and animal intelligence sort of developed. Human and animal intelligence developed from primary senses, which are our hearing and our vision, and that somehow formed concepts which went up the chain and formed language and linguistic concepts. On the other hand, large language models, what they did was they scoured all the text on the internet or elsewhere. They already worked with sort of concepts which had been created, and they were successful, and then people thought of adding vision and audio to them afterwards. So in a sense, you work down from these concepts which had been developed. So now, of course, they contain the full knowledge maybe humankind had developed and thought to digitize, but these models do not necessarily primarily work with the signals that human intelligence might have worked on. And so now, one sort of the next challenge that large models are facing is how do they interact with the physical world? They've sort of been like a library person who's absorbed all the library information in the world, but has very little knowledge of the physical world. But audio and vision are the primary, two of the primary modalities by which you can sort of interact with the world and which animals sort of base their intelligence. Now we need, if we are to proceed towards auditory general intelligence, what we need is to give large language models the capability to reason about audio. And you saw two examples of that already, right? So we have verbal audio, which sort of helps us communicate.
In his hand, he had that acting degree.
And we have nonverbal audio, which has all sorts of event physics-based information creation associated with what's happening in the world, etc. There. And I'm just going to jump through these. We all know what nonverbal cues are and so on. One definition of artificial general intelligence is being able to operate at the 90% level of the average human in any skill domain. And to give AI agents this capability, we need to think of what are the different audio tasks humans perform. Humans are able to perform, someone made a sound there, someone's going there, I sort of know what's going on. There was shuffling of paper or something there, I hear that sound. I know I'm in this room. If someone plays that E chord thing your rector was saying, I wouldn't know that because I don't have that musical capability, but on the other hand, some of you would have. And all of this stuff put together, we need to sort of have these skills about spatial audio, about speech, about language, about where the sound happened, and we want to give all these skills to the large audio language models. And so here is, if a robot is trying to cook, and you want to give it some information about how to use the audio cues its microphone is picking up and integrate it with the cooking demonstration, you need to be able to reason about that. And for example, there are many audio cues. If you wanted someone to summarize the movie and you wanted to figure out where the action was happening, usually there are good audio cues which helps us do that. Hold on a second. This wants me to keep suggesting to try subtitles, but okay, I'll turn it on. What the heck? And this is a movie without any audio, but you don't have any idea what's going on. There's no emotion, anything else there. And if I it feels more engaged, right? So we can improve AI systems with audio perception. So there is, in audio, especially human-consumed audio, there is audio which is sort of recorded dry with a microphone, and then sort of it's used to produce stuff. On the other hand, there is egocentric audio, which is audio which we receive at our ears and which we use to make sense of the world. Much of our signal processing and much of our speech processing has been in with non-egocentric data. One of the key things we have to do if we want to get agents to sort of use audio as a modality is to improve egocentric perception. And one of the tasks which David Harwath and Goni, who are sort of contributing to this, will be to improve our understanding both of spatial audio in the team. Yeah? We need to understand whole scenes. So we have to caption without audio, caption with audio. If we caption with audio, we might, without audio, we'll just see a black dog. But if we have the audio there and we understand where the dog is barking, we know much more about the scene because of the size of the echoes and so forth.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Rocky. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm awesome. Listen, I got some huge news.
Oh, do tell.
So I'm going to skip, GPT-4o, Grok, all these things now have a recently introduced chat. It's quite believable. Many It can conduct wonderful conversations, can create podcasts, etc. from stuff, but it still lacks a lot of skills which we hope to add. So there are many examples of how you can improve robot planning, how you can sort of improve audio-visual object detection by adding audio cues and so forth. So these are all things, these are all skills that people in various subdomains like robotics, etc., have tried and have used audio to improve vision tasks and so on, but still not part of large audio language models yet. So there's been, these large language models work with, in a tokenized representation. The language is pushed into tokens, and one of the multimodal language model goals is to tokenize vision, tokenize audio, tokenize touch, tokenize everything, and push them into a common representation. And with audio, because audio carries so much information, it has speech, of course, it has music, it has spatial audio, it has physics, you know, what kind of materials. The tokenizers come with a speech bias. And they might lose information, but this is an active area of research of trying to create encoders. And once you create these encoders, you need to align the encoded audio with the language. And so there are various approaches to do that alignment, CLAP and COMPE. And then there are audio LLMs, LTU, which was sort of developed by Yuan Gong, who's sort of collaborating with us, with Gamma, which was developed in our lab, Salmon, which was developed at Tsinghua, then Audio Flamingo 2, and now Audio Flamingo 3, developed in a partnership between UMD and NVIDIA. And all of these systems have improved the state of understanding. And the other side of this thing for AGI would be generating specific audio. This is something that we are not going to look at in this workshop. There has been tremendous improvement in our ability to generate audio as well, based on text or other prompts. And these are usually based upon diffusion models, just as in the visual domain. So you can essentially say, you know, create gentle rainfall with distant thunder, and it'll sort of, it'll go ahead and create that for you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the BBC World Service, broadcasting live from the heart of Paris, the City of Lights, art, and it seems ever-deepening mysteries. The date is the 15th of June, 1926, and we have a rather unsettling story to share with you tonight.
So that was completely generated from text, the visual and the audio from them. So large language audio models require data. So let's take a step back and look at how large language models were developed. So essentially, they took all digitized text in the world and learned from them. There's 1 trillion tokens going into a large language model. And this 1 trillion tokens incorporates essentially all text which was produced. Much of it crap, but a lot of it good. And it's been a tremendous engineering effort to get that into a bunch of weights of a trained transformer model, right? As far as vision goes, vision is somewhat catching up to how many tokens they are able to train their systems on. But in audio, we fall very, very far back. We have hours of clean speech, but we have, but even that is relatively small compared to what the language folk and the vision folk have. But as far as the other domains, like labeled music, labeled spatial audio, labeled animal sounds, labeled other things, we really lack things. So one of the big issues is our data sets are tremendously limited. And we have to, as a community, figure out how to get open data sets available, which are labeled at least, or they have a path to labeling. And we need real-world diversity. We lack real-world diversity. So here, for example, we have billions or trillions of tokens in language data sets. In vision data sets, we have over 5 billion pairs of images which are sort of aligned. Speech data sets might be 60,000 hours. Non-verbal audio data sets, the largest data set is about 1,000 hours.
Got you a present.
So there are too many examples here, I'll keep skipping. And quite often our audio data is relatively short. So for example, they're 10 to 30 seconds, at most 5-10 seconds. We are sort of going to the minutes now. There is, of course, people who do ASR want to do diarization and might have hour-long meetings and so forth. But our stuff is relatively short. Audio set is this large data set which Google put out, but then sort of hid again. But a lot of our audio research is based upon audio set. The best audio encoders only achieve about 50% on audio set. On the other hand, ImageNet and equivalent large image data set, the models are achieving 95%. There is sort of compositional audio. Speaker A spoke before speaker B, or the dog barked before, the Sherlock Holmes story. The dog did not bark, or the dog barked. Those kind of questions, if you want to ask of audio, you need to be able to do compositional reasoning. The same word might be used different ways. You need ways to sort of figure out and so on, linguistic variations. And speech, sounds, and music are still treated separately rather than holistically. Of course, biological systems will do it all together. And benchmarks. So this is, again, a key focus of our project. So you don't know how well you're doing. As academics, we think our pet idea is the greatest thing since anything else. And of course, that ego is what keeps us driving, and that's great. But on the other hand, the way these sort of machine learning systems proceed is by looking at error. If you need to have the best exam, the best test to know if your system is doing well enough, and you need to create good benchmarks. But also there is always a danger. It's a cat and mouse game. You create a benchmark, then everybody will train on that benchmark, and they'll memorize that test, and they will ace that test. So you have to keep creating newer and newer benchmarks. So the current state-of-the-art audio models do not do so well when there is sort of compositional complexity. If you train the model on clean audio, they find it difficult to generalize to complex audio. So we need more compositional data, better architectures, better training, and generative models, which you're not going to talk about. We need to improve reasoning. Like I said. And we need to increase the length of the audio that we are processing. And you can sort of cook up many examples from the state of the art where it does poorly, or the previous state of the art. So, of course, I should sort of, Sanjeev kept on making this point that not everything was discovered in the last 3 years. And there is, in the pre-LLM era, there was clap and contrastive learning. But it was useful for classification, audio to text retrieval, and text to audio retrieval. And in the post-LLM era, what this is now you train a large audio language model, which are capable of doing more complex sort of tasks like captioning, reasoning, and open-ended QA, and includes elements of perception. So the big companies are running with training these large audio language models. They're incorporating audio, but everything is usually closed source with these companies. Some companies will release model weights, and almost nobody will release their training data. So this is where sort of the proprietary and open access part of the domain lies. What we as open academic lab and industry collaboration group as JSALT can do is we can advance the state of the art in open source, open data language models. And that is the goal of our project. And in particular, in our lab at Maryland, we've released 3 open source large language models. 2 of them are already released on Hugging Face, which is Gamma and Audio Flamingo 2. And a third one is in the process of being released. It turned out that it had been trained on some data set whose license changed. And so we had to retrain it to re-release it, excluding that data set. But Audio Flamingo 3 is coming out. And I'll play a few examples of what Audio Flamingo 3 can already achieve. So Audio Flamingo, as I mentioned, it started off in NVIDIA. 2 and 3 are in collaboration between NVIDIA and Maryland. It's a large audio language model, which 2 is accepted at ICML, and Flamingo 3 is sort of submitted to NeurIPS, and it's going to be released. A website exists where you can sort of check the many demos I'm going to skip through here. And it's, the size of the training, you can see went from 6 million to 10 million to 50 million. These basically looked at just audio, not speech. Here we combined it with speech. Between 2 and 3, we had various design decisions to take, and there still remain open things that we can try. And one of our goals at this workshop is to create the next version of this language model by incorporating many ideas on how to improve the training and so on. So the other thing I wanted to say is neither Audio Flamingo 2 nor Audio Flamingo 3 existed when we did the sort of selection workshop at Hopkins in October. So this field, essentially, people keep releasing new sort of code and benchmarks. Essentially, every 4 months, 5 months, something new is created and published, which requires lots of compute and so forth. So of course, you create an audio language model, and you think it's the greatest thing, but obviously you have to try it. And to try it, you have to set exams for it. So one of the big advantages in language and in vision is they had these, in language, there are over 25 benchmarks that people try stuff on. In vision, there is a similar sort of number of benchmarks. Audio lacks these. Now there are a few benchmarks coming out. So MMAU, which we published and we've sort of opened, is one of the first audio understanding and reasoning benchmarks. It has skills in understanding sound, in using world knowledge, and in reasoning. It has a skill test. It covers questions in speech, music, and event-based sound. It can do different tasks like speaker role mapping, music understanding, scene understanding, etc. It asks questions on those. So for example, you can say, what natural environment is most likely represented by the forests and by the audio, and there's a sound of a pile driver, so it's a construction site. For a given audio, identify what's going on, and this is video game audio, and so on. And multiple speakers are talking, so this appears to be that healthcare scenario, that previous. So you sort of ask, with this sound, what could be the scene, and so on. So there are 27 distinct skills, 11 are based upon extraction, and 16 are based upon reasoning, and for each of the 3 categories. It's a challenging benchmark, and there are all the existing language models which are out there, and here's a list of them. They do quite poorly on this. The highest score was 65 or 68 by GPT-4o. And most of the errors appeared to arise due to the encoding of audio, and then there were other kinds of errors in the data set. And if we just look at a large Gemini 2O's performance, you see that in many, its performance doesn't achieve the full 100% mark. It falls quite short. It does better, a little bit better in the historical and cultural reasoning, or the genre and style reasoning where language can sort of win, but it doesn't do so good in many music things and so on. So all of this, all of this represents essentially a way for us to improve. So the weakest link in all of these is the audio. Audio is extremely important for sense making and understanding, and we have opportunities to make significant contributions as this workshop. And we'll advance the state of the art for LALMs, and we'll improve their benchmarking. So I'm going to skip through all the examples. You should go to the website, but I just want to share tomorrow at 4:30, we've sort of set up a very interesting talk. So there is this person in Germany who started a grassroots movement called Lion. And his goal, and there are about 20 people, his goal is to, his name is Christoph, his goal is to create the world's largest labeled data sets for vision and for audio. And he has already released huge data sets for images, and he's now put his team to trying to create the biggest data sets for audio possible. And thanks to Lasha, a grad student who sort of contacted them on Discord. These guys only meet on Discord. They all work on spare time. They're creating huge data sets, and they want to collaborate with us, JSALT team, and they will release to us their data set to improve the quality of our audio thing. And I will just skip ahead and say we want to improve music understanding by creating these questions. There are many areas to improve there. We want to improve spatial ambient sound. We want to combine audio generation and understanding, create thinking models, make them more efficient, do better training, etc. And so for improving the model, we want to bring in something called preference optimization, which language and vision have done, but haven't been done so successfully with audio. We want to improve the alignment of audio and language, and we want to explore the space of smart answers by answer equivalence, which I will quickly go through. Okay, so there is some audio. What we want to do essentially is, let me skip directly to the. So what we want is, most of the benchmarks these days are evaluated in multiple choice format, where you have question and few choices given, and model has to pick up the right option. And then what we found in our initial study is most of the models, most of the outputs are very sensitive to how you shuffle the options or how many distractors you have, right? So we want to kind of address this core aspect in the evaluation. So there is already some pioneering research in this one where they let the model generate an open-ended answer, and you want to evaluate whether they are equivalent or not, right? So what we want to do is take existing benchmarks, some of them, and then build a model that measures if the ground truth answer is equivalent to a candidate answer, given the question context. And we want to train it in a way that it correlates with human judgment, right? So this is slightly different than LLM as a judge, which will be also our baseline. So this is one of these subtasks that we will be doing.
I think there's a great option for possibility for synergy with us, right? So when we look at audio, it would be fantastic actually to use it as a judge. If the audio, for example, has certain qualities that we want to have, and that the model would agree on that. What do you think? Is that something that we could do with these models?
So this particular one,
in general, right?
Okay. So with audio quality, I think we have some tasks that require the model to evaluate whether given audio has certain qualities. So we give a pair of audios and then ask the model whether
very specific question about the quality. I think this is one of the part of the benchmark.
Okay, I assume that it's somehow limited by what kind of questions you have asked before or in the training set. I'm not sure if that would be, for example, something where you can say, okay, does this person sound like they have a respiratory disease or so, right? So.
Yes, I think it is dependent on the benchmark. These days, the benchmarks are becoming more and more open-ended, so there is kind of no limit on what any person can ask. They can go very deep into some cultural aspect or very deep into some kind of medical aspect or any of the human characteristics. So this is quite open.
Okay, yeah, we should try.
Yep.
If there are no more questions, we'll end. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Yannick and Fetty team getting ready. Okay, Yannick, take the... Does something. Oh, so far so good.
I destroyed it.
Is it broken?
No, yes.
No.
Not really, but.
Oh. Yeah. Thank you.
We'll get.
Mute, maybe I don't. Maybe it is muted, or is it muted over there? The switch on the top.
Oh, it's not. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
So, it's okay, I can start? Okay. So, hello everybody. So, we are the TTS for All team. So, it's a special team because we are funded all by the Esperanto project. It is a European project in which Johns Hopkins University, Butte are also involved. So this team is led by Fetty and I. I'm not the only one. So Fetty will also speak later for the presentation. He has to do his duty. What we want to do, we want to work on text-to-speech for low-resource scenarios and also some kind of applications. So we know that now TTS system reach a very high level for quality for high-resource languages. But we're still facing some issues with very low-resource languages, as there is a lot of languages like that. So we want to work on that, mainly. We have also other aspects we want to deal with, but it is the main focus of this work. And so we also want to study the use of self-supervised language model to address this issue. There's a lot of work to do on that. And we want to see if by applying some transfer learning approaches, by working, for instance, with close languages to the language or the dialect we target, we can get some improvement. So we have different research questions. Some of them are about the evaluation of this kind of system. For instance, if you want to develop a TTS model for low-resource language, but there is not a lot of speakers, or we cannot access to a lot of speakers because they are rare, we have this issue that how to deal with that, because we cannot find people enough to compute, for instance, most score or something like that. We have also this issue about the collect of the data collection, and how to qualify the quality of the data we collect in order to make very good TTS model. But also we have some question about the TTS architecture by itself, some question about how to analyze which kind of information and where are the information in SSL models. And also we want to apply that to some real life applications like streaming and linguistic content pseudonymization. So, so we have some objective, and so we want to set up an effective data collection. We want to explore different strategies. So I think this slide may be a little bit redundant with the previous one. So Feti, I can give you the floor now. Just one thing. Because we are a large team and we have a lot of things to do, we split into different work packages, and we have different work package leaders. Use that?
Can use this. Okay. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. So I'm Feti, by the way. So hello. As you can see here, so we, as Yannick said, we kind of split the project in mainly 4 work packages, in addition to another work package, number 5, which is WP0, which is already started before the workshop related to data collection and preparation. So we'll try to go through all the work packages and explain the work, one work package by one, the goals and the main research question and objectives. So as I said, we already started actually by collecting and finding some data related to low resource languages, and we are mainly having data today from almost four continents. So we have European languages, Arabic, North African dialects, Iranian dialects as well, Latin American, Spanish, Cuban, and so on. So unfortunately, some dialects was not available because some member of the project was not able to join the this year project. So this is actually the work package 0 outcome is already collected. The data set are identified and available to be used during the workshop. So this work package was led by Sarah, so thank you for the effort already done before the workshop. And as you can see here, you have some detail about the language itself, the size, the number of speakers, and if yes or no, we have labels, and for some of the languages, we need diacritics with the labels as well, and some details about the quality of the data set. So as I said, we already started working a little bit before coming here, and one of the things that we already done before the workshop is training a first ATS system for Tunisian dialect. So this is my native language actually, and this is one of the Arabic languages that needs, before generating the audio, to do some diacritization, because by default we don't write diacritics, which are the vowels actually of that language. So one of the main issue here, or challenge, is going from this text, which is mainly clear for any native speakers, and add the diacritics here, okay, to clarify for any non-native speakers how the text will be pronunciated, and then to give it to the TTS system to be trained. Just wanted to play some example. So I don't know if it's working. So as you can see here, it's not quite clear. I don't know how you evaluate this this generation, automatic generation. By the way, the system is available on Hugging Face if you want to try it. But for me, as a native speaker, it's intelligible, but it's not very good quality of generated audio. So the goal is, at the end of the project, is of course to improve the intelligibility and the quality of the generated audio file. Okay. I think I can switch to you, Yannick. Yeah. So as I said, the second and one of the main also work package is to do evaluation of the quality of the data set before training the system. So one of the things that we wanted to do is to have a kind of evaluation before training the system, how or an expectation of the quality that will be generated giving the input data. And we wanted also to work on the evaluation itself. As Yannick said, we don't always have access to native speakers to do human grounded evaluation. So we have to simulate this evaluation and to propose, the goal of this work package is to propose new evaluation metrics. It will be led by Misam. And we wanted to also develop an application grounded evaluation, because it depends on your application. Maybe the evaluation itself could be dependent of the application and of the function also of the TTS that you want to use. Maybe if you have in some domain you want to have different evaluation metrics or different evaluation method from one domain to another domain. So we will as well in this work package explore, of course, we'll use the existing evaluation and advance the evaluation metrics and the evaluation setup of TTS model to evaluate the accuracy of the model. WP2. So the second work package will work mainly on the architecture of the TTS system itself. So we start from the existing architecture, of course, and the goal is to improve upon of this architecture and to see how these architecture are adapted to the low resource settings and scenarios, and how we can put other blocks or update the already existing blocks in this architecture. So we split this in 3 phases. So we will start with the basic baseline architecture of the model, and then we will try to include multi-speaker and cross-language variability. And then in the third phase, we will also be interested in integrating the prosody control and customization of the system. So Arilas will be leading this work package. And I will hand over to Yannick.
Thank you. So work package 3 is about analyzing speech representation of TTS, of SSL model for TTS. So we know that already some existing work are published about that, but we want to focus more about their ability to be used for low resource languages. So we have different tasks we want to address. I'm going fast because time is running. And especially we want to better understand what happens in this discrete speech units when we generate it, when we use it to send it to a vocoder in order to generate speech from these units. And also about the TTS applications, we have these 2 applications already talked before. One is about streaming, so how to generate speech in the same time as the text is fed to the model. It is very fast and useful when you plug it on the top of LLM model, for instance, because LLM model, textual LLM model, take time in order to generate text, token by token. And those application is about linguistic content pseudonymization. I will explain here. The idea is, the goal is how to change, to mask some sensitive information in the linguistic content of the speech. For example, this could be useful in Europe with the GDPR regulation we have to follow. When you have to anonymize the speech, a lot of works are focused on speech anonymization by changing the voice, by removing the speaker identity from the speech. But what we want to do here is about changing the linguistic content. So it's the idea is to Well, I don't want to detail. We will have more meetings in order to, to explain the technical details. I don't want to bore you. And so the idea is to do that, how to change, for instance, to hide and to mask an address, a name, an age, something like that. And so what we expect as outcomes in this project are different things. So of course, we want to get some progress reports. We want to get some TTS models. So we will also release them as open source models, probably in the Hugging phase. We will open source the code. Especially, we want to deal with the SpeechBrain project. It's a project in which we used to work on. And of course, we expect some papers and some recipe in order to to qualify and prepare TTS data for training. That's all. Yes, and this is the list of the team members. So we will have time to read it, and we will have time to meet all together. Thank you. Any question?
Thank you. Do you limit yourself in terms of computation, or how do your approaches will work with the amount of computation? I guess that if this is TTS for all, maybe all should be able to use it, or do you really don't take into account how much compute it will take to produce something?
That is a good question. You're right, we didn't address this kind of aspect of the problem in this project. We don't consider that we want to work on low resource devices. But by the way, probably because we have some limitations in our team, maybe we will have to. So because we don't have a lot of computation.
So the target is really to use the best models that use the most computation right now.
Yes, but probably at the end, I think it will be possible to use it without GPU, for instance. For TTS only, not for the training. I'm talking about the generating speech.
Okay, thank you.
But it's a good question. As a point of research, we don't address this. I believe.
From my perspective, I'm just wondering if your data sets that you're collecting also contains non-word like laughter and these kind of things. Is this also part of the text-to-speech generation nowadays, or is that something that is excluded? So something say something and then ha 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 or something like that, which is then not ha 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 but ha ha ha. You know what I mean? Exactly. So like that. Are you aiming also to generate this kind of sounds in the TTS, or is that something that you?
No. We just focus on speech for now.
Okay. Yeah.
Or spoken language.
And in English, or no?
No, spoken language.
Spoken language. Okay.
Verbal.
Yeah. But no laughter, like you just did.
Not yet.
Okay.
So I think when you said TTS for all, I think you meant more like all languages, right? Not really all, like in everybody's mobile phone. But I had a question for you in the sense of where do you draw the boundaries between languages and dialects? And do you even have data to say, I want to produce TTS in, I don't know, Hindi, but spoken by somebody from the eastern part of India or things like that. And then the other thing becomes there are other factors that influence how somebody speaks, like education level, socioeconomic status. So there are many steps in terms of making TTS really sound natural. So where are you drawing your boundaries for the team, and what do you think is going to be feasible in the next few years?
Oh yes, in the next 2 years, really. No.
I mean, what should we be doing in the longer future, and what are you going to do this summer?
I understand the question. So, there is an aspect about, we didn't talk about that, we forgot probably, but we have a part of the project that is dedicated to accent, especially Hannah will work on that. Accent, especially for the Cuban accent for Spanish language. So it's something we want to address, but for the sociological aspects, I think we are not ready now because there are a lot of issues in order to collect this kind of data in how to say that, with our possibilities. We are just academic people. It's not so easy to collect this kind of data. Maybe there is some corpora that are available for English languages, for instance, with some demographic information, with accent, age, pathological information, but for low resource language, it's become more complicated because we add the challenges in the same problem. It's already hard to get some speakers in some languages. If in addition we want to get young people, educated people, and so on, it becomes too complicated. So I think there is a lot of research we can do in the future, but we need means, fundings to do that because it's a very hard question. It's not only about the technique.
I think Yannick has a follow-up.
I have a little bit related question. How do you convince somebody like funding agency that it's useful that a synthesizer speaks, say, Mandarin English? I understand if you build a recognizer which understands the Mandarin English, that may be useful. Why do you have a machine which would speak in Mandarin English?
Yes, you're talking about the slide in which there is Mandarin and English. I think it's more about code switching. That's right? Or am I wrong?
No, but I mean, you're working on text-to-speech, right?
Yes.
So I assume that you will have a machine which will speak in Mandarin English. No? I mean, well, accent is a language or is an accent, whatever you call it. Malay English, Mandarin English, Indian English, right? I mean, all these are, we know that they are different from proper English, Queen's English, right? But why, so I understand if I build a recognizer which would understand the way the Malay people speak English. Why would I have a machine which speaks to me in Malay English? Because everybody who speaks English in Malay understands English, I assume. You don't have to speak in accent.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, why would I pay money for that?
Yeah, this is one, good question. But this is one of the application of accent, actually. And I think people that speaks with some accents is better from perceptual point of view as well to get answer in the same way they are using the language. Yeah. So, and it includes as well, I mean, Mandarin English maybe with some code switching that are not available in corpus like English only corpus for to generate speech.
So we do a lot of qualitative research and we interview patients and beneficiaries. And the first thing that we do is we transcribe the audio. And in the transcription, we also transcribe the body language, sigh, elevation in the pitch of the sound, frustration. To give you an example, for example, here we have a patient that we're asking about their delay in lung cancer diagnosis and symptoms, and the patient responded, "Oh Lord," sigh deeply, rub his forehead too many times, elevated pitch, quiet, start counting on his fingers. Are you capturing these kind of audios? Like if I give you such a transcript, can you translate that into an audio with the changes in the pitch, the volume, the sigh, the poses, the body language audio as well?
Unfortunately, we don't have this type of data to train our models, but I guess if you have some data with this extra, let's say, it's not linguistic content, mainly, it will be nice to try to include them and to see if the generation speech, the output will include some extra information like this.
Okay.
But I don't know what is the use case for this, I mean.
In a qualitative
speech to
research,
okay.
yeah, we use them to analyze what's behind the spoken language.
Yeah, but if you go from speech to text, it's clear for me at least, because you want to know more than the linguistic content about the situation. But what is the goal of generating this?
We started generating synthetic dialogue with body and emotional
to train
description.
The reverse system.
Yes,
yeah,
reverse
I
system,
see.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can try, because one of the goals of the project also is to have a kind of clear pipeline with the question, if I have 1 hour of speech or 20 minutes or 5 minutes of speech in my own dialect that is spoken by 1,000 people or 2,000 people, what are the steps that I have to go through in order to train a first system that can improve it iteratively? So,
okay.
yeah. So we can include these steps in the...
It's also true that we didn't mention it, but if we succeed in creating good TTS system for some languages, we want to generate synthetic data in order to train, to train to improve ASR or automatic speech translation system for this kind of dialect, because we don't have data enough to train very nice, for instance, speech translation system. And so by using this TTS, we can generate more data, and why not, by the way, introducing some other kind of information in the data. It could be nice, yes, good idea. But it was not, we didn't target this at this point, but we can try if we have something to do. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to put some comment on the question. For the question that Sanjeev, you asked about the language, we considering one of the experiment that we are going to do is on the particular case that when we have a pathological voice, and over there the low resource language is not only the language that we don't have as a resource, it's only the situation that is a low resource. And also about Yannick, when you ask about the question of the who will pay this such a scenario, I respond on that in my personal view. I think the language is not only the message. There is some other aspect like culture, like beauty of beauty that will be transmitted by expression that exists in other accents as well. So I definitely have in mind lots of community that will pay to have their own language accent to be integrated as one aspect of pleasantness. So it's not only intelligibility that will play a role here, it's also the pleasantness of a hearing or perceive the other aspect, of paralinguistic aspect of the speech as well. Yeah.
So thank you, Meisan. Meisan is one of the work package leaders of the TTS team. TTS for all. It's okay?
Okay, so we have reached the end of the technical presentations this morning. We are a little bit behind schedule, and Honza has a plan to take care of that. I did want to enter the last bit where we tell you a bit more about organizational stuff. Initially, it was going to be just Honza and Radim, but Honza said, why don't you do the first two, and he'll take over next. So here we are. We are in the end of the second week of the workshop. So I don't want people who arrived last week to forget that we've already been here 2 weeks. And a lot of good effort went into planning the last 2 weeks. What you see here in front of you is a schedule of what we worked on. We started off with Petr Schwartz, Igor, and Karel telling us about ASR, not just the theory, but how it works in practice. We had Yannick give us a very nice lecture on speech science, on hearing, and on the foundational work that went on for I would say decades at least, if not centuries, because he had a device from, what is the historic one? From the 12th century or something. Anyway, Olga talked about speaker ID. We had a lecture on diarization from Fede Landini. Then we had lectures on computer vision from the faculty here at BUT, and also on evolutionary computing, like genetic algorithms and optimization techniques that come out of that tradition, and about cyber-physical systems, robotic systems that use AI. Then we went on and talked about NLP, both machine translation and spoken dialogue generation. In the second week, we had, Jan Chorovsky, who's one of the original people who worked on attention models for speech, came and talked about new architectures that are being developed and thought about at the forefront of deep learning. We had Jindra Matušek from Pilsen, another Czech university where there's a lot of good speech work going on, come and tell us about speech synthesis. So a lot of the students now have a good baseline to talk to Yannick's team. Then we had the 4 teams, each presenting to the students what they're planning to do. The idea here is that the students, even though they'll work in one team, will hopefully be able to follow all the other teams. So this was a lot of good work. So let's give Honza and the other organizers of the summer school a big hand for this. Right. Yeah. And what's coming up next is mostly work. 99% work. This is the remaining 1%. So we will have some structured activities every day, little ones, and don't worry, this will be up somewhere for the slides for you to see. So today we are on June 23rd. We have the opening presentation. There'll be some administrative stuff. There is a steering committee, the team leaders and the organizers who try and make sure everything runs on time. So once a week. There will be cookies every day. And you'll have to take a break from your computers and come and meet each other and talk to each other. You can't just stare at your terminal all day long. And if not enough people participate, we can cause network outages at that time. So if you don't want that, just come to the cookie breaks. We do plan a few plenary lectures. They're being worked out and the speakers are slowly being scheduled. Nominally, they will be on Wednesdays, but depending on when the lecture is available, sometimes we might do it on a Tuesday. In the last week, we won't take it close to the final presentations because everybody's tense. Another thing we'll do is on Thursdays, Honza and I will meet only the undergraduates, so no, none of you other guys are invited. It's only for the special people. And we'll sit and discuss life and how they're doing and so on and so forth. And if we find out that the teams are not helping them do a good job, we'll come and talk to you. The other thing we'll do is we'll try to explore a little bit of Brno. I have put here nominally no-host dinner outings, so we'll just go out, find a good restaurant. But Radim told me we can do more than just that. We can have maybe a walking tour of Brno or a few other things, and these things will evolve, and we'll send you emails and WhatsApp messages about what's happening. These are meant to be group activities to which everyone should go. These are voluntary, and if, for example, if the tour involves paying a guide, we all pay individually, but this is just to help us explore Brno and the city. We will... usually the Friday, cookies will be slightly special. Maybe we'll have ice cream or something, so I just put down ice cream social over there. And then last but not the least, July 31st, August 1st, we'll have our final presentations. So these will be day-long businesses. So each team gets about 3 hours. So one team from 9 to 12, another from 1:30 to 4:30. So each it's like having a special session at a conference where all of you present. So even though today we just had the team leaders, on those last 2 days, I expect pretty much everybody in this room to stand up and say at least a few minutes of what they're working on. And these things require rehearsals. You can't pull off a 3-hour presentation with 20 people without everybody knowing what the others are going to say and rehearsing everything. So you are expected to rehearse. I don't want to see a shoddy presentation that day. So 3 hours each team in the evening, starting 6 o'clock the previous night, you have to rehearse your presentations. So that's the general schedule. There are many, many more logistical things. I don't know if we'll go through everything now, Honza, but we'll at least get started. So let's switch to your computer and, I should say one more thing. You should do this, Honza. Yes.
I will do that.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay, so I have just some distillation of practicals, because I remind you that there is this famous welcome guide assembled by Radim and Renata that contains everything. So this is a condensed form of the timeline. So today, there is a steering committee, just the team leaders and the organizers. We will shift it to 3:30 because we are a little bit late, but normally it takes place at 3 p.m. Then the plenary lectures, the dates will be announced. We don't have them yet. Weekly progress reports. This will happen on Wednesdays here at 2 p.m. in this room. Well, Sanjeev already told you about the undergraduate brown bag lunch. And we will have on Thursday the nose host dinners, you heard about it, and Monday till Friday the cookie break ice cream socials. So special events as the closing approaches, well, we will let you know about all that. Now where we are gonna be? Actually, we will have to do quite some walking because now we are here in the E112. And we need to go across the street, so of course I recommend everyone to use the bridge, not to walk in between the cars. We need to enter the modern building, exit the modern building, and here we are in the N building. Well, we will be hosted like all the time. So there are 4 rooms, N105, 205, 103, 203. Larger teams will get larger rooms, smaller teams, smaller rooms. And I'm sorry, due to construction work in this building in M, we will really need to get outside here and enter the N building from the door or through the door from outside. But I'm pretty sure you will learn it. Now, how it's gonna work practically? On the working days, we have the pavilion dedicated from 7 till 21. First person coming to work asks the receptionist to open the building, to open the lab. Last person asking him or her to lock it. Of course, as the end approaches, you guys will want to stay longer and even longer. So this is fortunately not a problem, but you need to inform the reception. Just tell them, let's say until 9:45, I am here and I will be staying here until 2 a.m. and they will be happy with it if they know it. On weekends, normally the pavilions are closed, but there is this reception service running at FIT, so if you need to come over the weekend, just go to the reception, say, hey, I am from JSALT, please open me my lab. He or she will be happy to do it. Again, like first to come, asks to open, last one leaving, asks to close. Now, security, please do not let your valuables in the labs. We really need to let this ground floor door open all the time. We don't have the card access. CCTV is on, but it's not almighty. You might have a nice occasion to see the thief like stealing your bag, but that will be all you can do. So please take your valuables with you. Do not let them in the labs. Now, this is the workspace. We have also some other space allocated. We have a P108 room that has maybe 40 places as a private workspace, except for one weekend when it is booked by someone else. We have access to student club Kachnička, so we will have the cooking breaks there. And on Tuesdays from 5 till 9 p.m. the club is open with beer, billiard, games, or funny things. We have in the next building adjoining to N, there is O, and there is a part of the corridor and a lab that is also available to us. So there is a whiteboard, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even some huge screen to organize ad hoc meetings. For the weekly progress reports, we will have them here. And the steering committee, undergrads, brown bag lunch, ad hoc meetings, we will have them in our department's meeting room L220. If you are confused with all these codes, just look into the welcome guide and we have maps, we have everything there. Now, what to do now? So now when we finish, we will just walk to the JSALT labs to see around. Then it will be free time for lunch. So today there is no organized lunch. It will be up to you. Please see welcome guide for the places to eat. There are many around, or join locals. And you should convene something past 2 in the labs to have maybe your first private meetings or start of work. Then at 3:30, exceptionally 3:30, normally it's going to take place at 3, we will have with the team leaders the steering committee meeting. And at 5:30, we can be back here to have a little bit of beer, and then dinner starting at 6. For communications, there are some mail lists. So there is a mail list, JSALT participants, which is the official source of information, and JSALT steering. So please check your spam settings and remove the spam filters for list FIT, VUT, CZ. We also have WhatsApp channel. If someone is not in the WhatsApp channel, please ask anyone around you to add you, or ask Renata or Radim, our organizers. This is mostly for informal communication, for the trips, dinners, fun, but sometimes it's also like dynamical. It's the most dynamical channel to broadcast information. And for the authentication, please, if you are not in the lab but anywhere else at the faculty, wear your badge. Well, I was asked to do this practical part, but actually I'm the one kidding, and these people are doing the real work. So it's Renata, Radim, the main guys, and the students, Martin, Jarek, and helping us with practical stuff. And Katja doing everything about the AV, the streaming, etc. So they are in office L222. You should be able to enter our department door with your badge, or you can text them through WhatsApp. And that's it, guys. Well, just take this, look into the welcome guide. If there are any questions, please ask them now. And we are also dynamically adding them here in this document. Any questions? Okay. So let's reconvene in a couple of minutes across the street, downstairs at the reception, and we will take you to the lab building. Thank you, everyone.